I'm really sorry. At least I should probably start coming into the studio to do my show. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday, and the Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. What is up, Upstate South Carolina? Hello, America. Hello, world. Great to be back with you again. I am Rob Brown, America's #1 curling analyst. Directly across from me is the man who taught me everything I know, the great one, the alpha and the omega of ESPN Upstate. Colonel Grudge, hashtag Dad Kicks, the content cash cow himself, Lonzo, the operator of the television remote control, is at the helm. And I'm going to say hello to him here in just a minute when we get the Olympic. There we go. What's up, Zoe?
I had another hand, I was good. I got two hands. And if I taught you everything that remember, always hold something back. Never teach somebody everything. That way you always have just a little bit more than what they have. They can learn it on their own. They could.
But why would I? Why would I? Greatness comes from standing on the shoulders of giants, and I stand on Lonzo's shoulders, literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, but the only way you got up there is because I picked you up.
All right, it just got weird. We took it one step too far. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. Great to have you guys back and along for the ride. 844-477-3776 is the phone number to jump on the air with us today. The Preferred Home Services text line is open as well at 71307. Start your text with ESPN so that we can read them on the air, and we would be more than happy to do so, ladies and gentlemen. Busy day on the broadcast today. I've got some Panther news coming up for you here in just a little while. We are going to talk Triumph today, but we're going to actually talk football as head coach of the Greenville Triumph and former Team USA player John Harkes is going to join us coming up about 1:20. We'll have Coach Harkes on. And really interesting, we broke this news for you back on Monday. But for those of you that have not heard, the Triumph have their first preseason friendly, scheduled and ready to go February 26th. That is 9 days from now. Not this, but next Saturday, your Greenville Triumph will play a preseason exhibition match against the defending NCAA champion Clemson Tigers. The boys from the Ville headed on down the road to Seatown to take on the team that has most recently become champions of NCAA football. And we're going to talk about that coming up with John Harkes in a little while. We will, and I'm not going to make it more than a segment today unless you guys want to, obviously. As I've told you hundreds of times, at the end of the day, the show is yours, and whatever you want to talk about goes to the top of the line. We're not going to spend a ton of time on the stadium discussion, but Doug Irwin is the CBO of the Greenville Triumph. He's going to join us at 2 o'clock today because some of you guys have asked questions the last couple of days about the stadium and the plans and the funding and all of that. And I want to ask Doug those questions for you because, again, I do not think that this push is over. I do not know what the next step is regarding involvement from the county or other local municipalities. But you guys, over the past couple of days that we have been having this discussion, have had a number of questions for the Triumph, for the Irwins. So we're going to have Doug on to have a little talk and ask some of those questions. If you have a question for Doug Irwin and the Triumph group, then feel free to hit us up on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. Ask whatever questions you want, and I will propose them to Doug coming up at 2 o'clock. And then when we're done with that at 2:20, it's Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what that means. It's time for your home for all things combat sports here in the Upstate. Lonzo guides us through Fight Club coming up at 2:20 this afternoon. And my goodness, has it been a week. We've had all the news out of AEW. We've got Elimination Chamber coming up on Saturday morning because that's how time works, and plenty more. Plus, we have had and have a few more very big MMA fights. The return of Israel Adesanya may or may not make Lonzo's cut. We will find out coming up at 2:20 for Fight Club. Look forward to that. But between now and then, we got all the sports to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start the show.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
You guys are here.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Yesterday after the show was over, Lonzo, I went out yesterday evening to grab myself a frosty adult soda pop. And I was sitting at a watering hole, an adult watering hole yesterday evening. And I had a gentleman come up to me. And he said, you're Rob Brown from the show, right? I host trivia on Wednesday nights. It's just a little side gig I do to have some fun, have a couple of soda pops, get out of the house. So a guy comes up to me and he goes, you're Rob Brown, right? I said, yeah. He said, I recognize the voice. And he said, can I ask you a weird question? And Lonzo, 90% of the time that somebody starts a conversation with, can I ask you a weird question? It's going to be a weird question, right? This one cracked me up. He said, I listen to your show for like 30 to 45 minutes every day. I drive from Greer to downtown Greenville and back for work every day. Said, so I listen to your show in the middle of the day when I go home for lunch. And he said, yesterday, I don't remember what you were talking about, but you said that someone was full of boat. Can you explain what that means to me? And it's not the first time I've been asked that question. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, the story of the boat came up a number of weeks ago when I was talking about a head coach in the NFL correctly steering the commonly used vernacular for a large boat. With Lonzo's permission, I'll say the word, but emphasize the end of it.
Put battle on the front of it.
Okay. Correctly steering the battleship, but no battle involved. Well, your boy, and this may shock you a little bit if you've listened to the show for any length of time, your boy has a propensity to talk faster than the normal American, all right? I speak quick, especially when I get excited. And I end up in some spots where I may miss the emphasis on the correct syllable here and there. It's shocking, I know. But I said battleship without the battle very rapidly. And let's just say that it came out sounding like a word that I'm not allowed by FCC guidelines to say on the air. Lonzo turned around and slapped the dump button as if it owed him money. Okay? And so...
I don't know if you know this, but if you hit it harder, it works better. I don't know if you...
Most things in life do.
No, you know.
Most things in life do. That also goes as far as, show host. So anyway, Lonzo hits the dump button like it owes him money. And when he does, I said, that did not sound like that. He said it did. We went back and listened after, and it absolutely did sound like I said the wrong word there. Although I said battleship. So we flipped it to boat, right? Correctly steering the boat. But then decided we were going to go ahead and use boat to replace the actual word that I should not have said and accidentally said, didn't really say, but definitely said, because
it's about our jobs. It really is. Your job, my job.
Correct, and also it makes me laugh. Which, if I'm going to be real, 90% of what we talk about on the show that's not sports, we talk about because it makes me, Alonzo, laugh. And we hope it makes you laugh too. So if you have heard me tell somebody that they are full of boat, that is why. That is why.
It also means you listen to the show, and that's awesome.
Correct. It's a long-running gag. Item number 1 on the lunch breakdown today, the 3 things you have to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworker, or the dog, whoever you spend your lunch break with. A little Olympics update for you, because the last 2 days have not been kind to the Americans in Beijing. We mentioned yesterday that the night before, the men's hockey team fell to Slovakia in a shootout loss, a 3-2 final there, as the Americans lose 0-1 in shootouts. The Americans got blanked in the shootout. The Slovakians hit 1, but 1 was enough to get the W, and they were bounced from the tournament. No medal for the American men. The American women last night at 11 p.m. Drop the puck against America's hat. Now, this rivalry is the rivalry in women's hockey. Every gold medal since the reintroduction of women's hockey to the Olympics back in the late 1990s, every single gold medal has either gone to the Americans or the Canadians. And last night was no different as the Canadians knock off the freedom-loving Yanks 3-2 in regular time. The Americans went down 0-3 in the second period. And if you go back and read my timeline, I knew it was over. I knew it was over at that point. I've told the story 100 times of my old middle school coach, Tom Grant, who taught me once, and I never forgot it, that sometimes the biggest problem in sports is that the other team is just better than you are, right? I've heard 100 times, a team of 3 stars can beat a team of 5 stars if they've got heart, passion, dedication, drive, and that's a fun confidence mixtape. But it also works under the assumption that those 5 stars don't have heart, dedication, passion, and drive. Sometimes the guys across from you are better than you and have those things, and that's what happened to the American women last night. The Canadians came out, should have probably been 4. They got caught on an offsides that negated a goal early, but about 3 minutes later, they got that goal back, went up 1-0, scored a second one and a third. Later on in the second period, the Americans would enter the third period down 3, and there was a scan of the bench at one point, and you could just see the Americans' faces. They were done. They knew it. They knew there was nothing they could do. Everything they threw at the Canadians failed repeatedly. The Canadian goaltender was almost perfect. The Americans would end up with a goal about midway through the third period to give themselves, early in the third period to give themselves a little bit of hope. They would also net a second. However, that second came with about 12 seconds left to go in the game. The Americans lost the faceoff, regained the puck, sent it the length of the rink, but before they could get any shots on goal, the clock hit 0, and the Americans would take home the silver medal. In other Olympic news, Mikaela Shiffrin has DNF'd again, ladies and gentlemen, and what will go down as one of the most disappointing Olympic performances of all time. Mikaela Shiffrin entered the slalom portion of the Alpine combined race in 5th place on Thursday after a very impressive downhill run, was looking to reverse the Olympic curse with a medal in her final individual race of the Beijing Games. She had previously called her first races in Beijing a failure, and that a podium finish would have been a fairy tale ending in the ultimate redemption. And then she crashed out of the race about 10 gates into the run, recorded her 3rd DNF at the Olympics, was seen fighting tears on the side of the course after she picked herself up. It was not great. Mikaela said after the run, quote, "Oh man, I don't know if anybody has failed that hard with so many opportunities, maybe in the history of the Olympics, but I'll take it. I mean, it's a joke. That's fine. I just really selfishly wanted to have a good run of slalom down this hill, and I'll be left wanting there," end quote. It has been a disastrously disappointing Olympics for Mikaela Shiffrin, already one of the most decorated alpine skiers and one of the most recognizable athletes competing at the Winter Games. She arrived in Beijing with sky-high expectations and all the attention that follows that. She entered with 3 Olympic medals, including a pair of golds. One more would have tied her with Julia Mancuso for the most by an American woman in alpine skiing. Instead, she goes 0 for 5, including 3 DNFs, and a couple of them inside of the first 10 seconds of her races. Lonzo, I hope there's a comeback story for Mikaela Shiffrin, because this young lady has been one of, if not the best female skier on planet Earth. These Olympics got away from her. If any of you have ever suffered from confidence issues, it snowballs, right? Once you fail once, it snowballs and the doubt snowballs, and it can just be a disaster. It's what happened to Mikaela Shiffrin. I hope there's a redemption story, but in the Winter Olympics, it is very rare that you have an athlete like this who can make it to a third and be uber competitive in all 3. I hope there's a comeback story for Mikaela, because my heart is broken for her.
Yeah, but her overall career overshadows 1 year of the yips. I mean, and it just shows that the yips can occur in any sport at any time.
To anybody.
And once you get them, it's hard to shake them off. and she wasn't able to do that, but her overall career still pretty good. Will she be remembered for this Olympics or for other ones?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I'd like to agree. I'd like to say that overall, her career is going to be recalled for previous Olympics for all of the. But here's the thing. Name me another alpine event that's not the Olympics. Just give me a name, right? Most of us can't. The Olympics are the glory stage. The Olympics are where you build your legend. And she had a really good Olympics 4 years ago.
World
really disastrous one this time.
Championships.
Yeah. Tell me where any of the last 5 have been held.
In snowy regions.
Hashtag nailed it. That's why he is the research master, ladies and gentlemen, because Lonzo's got fantastic trivia. Like they hold skiing events in places where it snows. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Well, it doesn't snow in China, but they made fake snow.
They figured it out.
Yeah.
They got a couple of the resorts in some ski destinations.
Yeah, I don't think those are vacation destinations.
Yeah.
I don't think. Hey, let's go to China. That's most people don't say that.
And finally, your last Olympic update. The American men, starting at 7:30 this morning, went up against Great Britain in men's curling a day after the women's Olympic curling team got bounced after going 4-5 in round robin play. The women were eliminated before they made it to the knockout round. The Americans made it into the semifinals. The last team to make it into the semis, they went up against Great Britain this morning, and a combination of some very unclutch slides late in the match and a couple of disastrous management decisions down the stretch doomed the Americans. The score was 4-5 going through to the 9th end. The Americans had an opportunity to pick up a point, square the game at 5, but give the hammer to the Brits going into the 10th frame. Instead, the Brits forced a decision upon the Americans. You can take a point, tie it up, and give us the hammer, or we will take a point, and you go into the 10th end down 1. The Americans decided to throw their final stone away. The Brits would pick up a point, take a 6-4 lead into the 10th end with the Americans holding on to the hammer. They had a couple of opportunities late, but they just choked, unfortunately. John Schuster's squad had some opportunities, including on the very last throw, but they had some 9 of 10 difficulty tosses ahead of them and just were unable to compete with the Brits down the stretch. The Brits will now move on to the finals. They have guaranteed themselves at the worst a silver medal. The Americans, on the flip side, will move on to the bronze medal match. One more win at least gets them a medal, though it is not going to be the gold medal defense that they had hoped. When we come back here in just a moment from right now, we'll get to items 2 and 3 on the lunch breakdown, because I did not expect the Olympic recap to take that long, but I'm also bad at my job, so who knows? When we come back, NASCAR's first competitive event of the season goes tonight. 150-mile qualifiers to find out what the starting grid is going to look like for this Sunday's Daytona 500. The pole sitter is set. I'll tell you who is going to be leading the laps and what I expect with the new next-gen cars on the track this evening on The Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate.
Hunter scores 23. They're back at it on Saturday when they host Wofford. Speaking of Wofford, they get a win yesterday over the Citadel, 65-58. South Carolina Upstate, they beat Presbyterian yesterday, 62-55. They were strong defensively down the stretch of the game. They will play at Charleston Southern coming up on Saturday. College basketball this evening. Coastal Carolina will continue down the home stretch to close out the regular season. They are set to play host to.
Did you see the lady fall off the stage?
We're going to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw that a few minutes ago. I was like, bless you. Like, whoa.
Matt Stafford had a whole heel turn in 1 second. A whole heel turn.
Get a great rate matched with a great loan by calling 866-888-LOAN or visit loandepot.com. At Loan Depot, home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing opportunity. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50 states.
My leg was painful, red, and swollen just doing the crossword puzzle. I could have put off telling my doctor, but I didn't wait.
He told his doctor and found out his leg pain, swelling, and redness are deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot which could travel to the lungs and lead to a pulmonary embolism, which could cause chest pain or discomfort or difficulty breathing and be deadly. If you have one or more of these symptoms, this is no time to wait. Contact your doctor.
Brought to you by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Is he the voice of American music?
One of them.
Well, they just said he was the voice.
Ah! Hello, everyone on stream. Yes, Steven, it is. So actually, Lonzo, you don't care, but this excited me. The dog slept 6 straight hours last night.
I do care.
6 hours.
I do care because
That's a new record.
Because you'll reach a point of crankiness that will be taken out on me. So of course I want you to get rest.
I think
Everyone has that. Everyone has that level, Rob.
I hate conflict.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Everyone has
And I
has
don't
that
think
level.
here's the thing. You'll know when I'm cranky. I don't fight.
I
I
do.
go away.
I do know when you're cranky.
I go away. Well, yeah. I mean, if I'm cranky with somebody else, I'll tell you about it. You've heard that.
Hey,
But,
let's
like,
face it. We all know when I'm cranky.
if I'm cranky, just like the general, I don't want to be around anybody upset. You know what I do? I don't be around anybody. That's the day I'll go. The laptop set up at home. I'm going home. I'll see.
Lack of sleep can fracture, your norm of how you act. And you don't always see it coming, and you may not react the same way every time. So, I don't want to see it, but I am genuinely happy that you got some rest. And it happened on your night where you were able to get rest. So good for you.
Yeah, last night was my night to sleep.
You
The problem is, so the main bed and the guest bed are across the hall from each other. And it turns out that the dog's barks do not stop at the door of either. So if she gets real loud, it doesn't matter. And she's got that really high-pitched puppy bark. Ow, ow. But she leans into it. It's impressive. She's got gusto. All right, ladies and gentlemen, segment number 2 of hour number 1 of the Rob Brown Show rolls on. 120, John Harkes, head coach of the Triumph. We'll talk to him about what the Triumph are doing to get ready for their preseason, which starts off next Saturday as they take on Clemson, as a matter of fact, right up the road at Clemson. A battle of the USL League One runners-up, taking on the NCAA men's soccer champions. That'll be really interesting. I'll be there for that one. And then at 2 o'clock, Doug Irwin, chief branding officer for the Greenville Triumph, is going to join us. I'm going to go ahead and tell you in advance of that segment. It is an interview, right? It is an interview, and that Doug will be on and asking us questions. But instead of me asking the questions, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to ask the questions. I'm going to allow you guys to text in your questions to Doug. If you have a question you'd like to ask the Irwins about the stadium, about the funding, about the infrastructure, about anything, and I have compiled some questions and statements that have been made on the multiple Facebook posts we've had about it over the past week. We've already got a couple of folks who have texted questions into the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Doug Irwin, the CBO of the Triumph, about the stadium, text them into 71307. Start your text with ESPN. I am recording them, and we'll ask them of Doug when we get them on the air coming up at 2 o'clock. And then again at 2:20, it's time for Fight Club. Your home for all things combat sports here in the upstate as Lonzo guides us through Fight Club. For now, let's get to item number 2 on the lunch breakdown. And I'm quite excited about this. This evening, we have our first competitive NASCAR event of the 2022 season. Daytona Speed Week is here, ladies and gentlemen. And this evening, we are going to see the very first competitive races, the dual 150-mile qualifying races go tonight. But I'm not just excited. Don't get me wrong. Very excited because I'm going to get to see NASCAR racing. I've liked NASCAR for the better part of 15 years now. I've gone to as many races as I can justify getting to. I enjoy the sport. Tonight, I'm more excited than I usually am for the start of the season, right? Qualifiers are usually, if they're on, I'll watch them if I got nothing else to do. Absolutely going to be watching the qualifiers this evening. And I'm going to be watching the qualifiers this evening because we are going to get the true debut of the next-gen cars. And if you have not watched NASCAR for a number of years, maybe you're not a big NASCAR guy, I would honestly probably tell you hang on till Sunday and watch the Daytona 500, right? But if you got nothing to do tonight, if you got nothing better going on tonight, go ahead and watch the qualifiers. Go ahead and watch the qualifiers. It'll be worth it. The next-gen car was described by, I want to say Kyle Larson yesterday, Lonzo. I found this kind of interesting. Was described by Kyle Larson yesterday as a marble, right? And I was like, what's he mean by a marble? Because in racing, they for those of you that don't know, the 7 of you, the marbles, as the tires wear down over a race, little pieces of rubber run off of them and they collect up against the fence. They're just little balls of rubber, but they're called marbles, and they can be dangerous if your tires get on those and you lose some traction. I thought, is that what he's talking about? But no, he called it like a marble, like we used to play as kids. You know, you got the shooter marble, they're glass usually or hard plastic, whatever. And he said they were marbles because these cars are so much more durable. These cars are so much more bouncy. These cars are so much more rugged. They are less prone to getting damaged on mild contact. On the last couple of gens of cars, the frame itself hadn't really changed since like the late 60s. There were pieces and bits of the car here and there that changed. But for the most part, the car really hadn't changed since like the mid to late 60s. This new car is the first time the car's had a significant upgrade, and they made it a little tougher. They made it a little bit more durable. In past 500s, if somebody's nose hit the tail of your vehicle, if somebody got into you, the car would dent, the car would bang up. And at some racetracks, the 1.5 mile cookie cutters, certainly the short tracks, you could get away with that. At the 2.5 milers, Daytona, Talladega, at the long stretches like Pocono, those racetracks rely on those racetracks on aerodynamics, right? The air flowing over your car, and every little dent in your vehicle can slow that car down. And once your car gets to the point where it's slowed down enough, you're not competitive anymore, right? You're going to get blitzed. You're going to get left in the dust. You're going to get railroaded. These cars aren't as prone to that. I mean, if they hit a wall, they're still going to be done. But if there's a little bounce from nose to tail coming out of turn 3, these cars aren't going to fold quite as much as the old ones did. The second thing that I'm really excited about is that I think we're going to see a lot more influence from smaller teams this year, because for these cars, they are more true to the concept of stock car racing than we have had in a very, very long time. Used to be when NASCAR stock car racing started, those were stock cars. But since around the late 1960s, they weren't stock at all. And if you had a heavily financed racing team, you could afford to put better equipment together, put a better car together, put a better package together, put more R&D to find out where your gear shifting patterns need to be, etc. With the new cars, a solid chunk of the car, the pieces and parts are uniform. Many of them are pieces and parts you can go down to AutoZone right now and pick up yourself and put on your car if you want. They're much more uniform than they have ever been before, which means that the drivers are going to have more influence on what happens on the racetrack than ever before. In the past 25 years or so, time was made not because driver X was really good at his job. Time was made because there was an egghead in the back room with a laptop hooked up to a sensor on the car that said, hey, if we unscrew that or screw that a little tighter or a little looser, we'll pick up 1/10 of a second. Now, those guys are still in play, but because the cars are much more uniform than they've ever been before, there's a lot less of that and a lot more of the driver's got to drive the car. And I think that's interesting because now we might start seeing some names pop up. Last year at the Daytona 500, Michael McDowell won that race. And the reason it was a news story was because Michael McDowell comes from a mid-tier racing team. And those guys don't win races. They show up, they get a few top 10s, a few top 5s. Maybe over the years, they get enough of them that they can get some more sponsors and funding. With the new car, I think there's a very good chance. I mean, look, you're still going to have the best drivers on the best equipment for winning most of the races. But when you put guys like Justin Haley in a car that is remarkably similar to the car that Kyle Larson is driving, maybe there's some of those young drivers driving for smaller teams that haven't gotten a chance to get into a rig with a big team yet that go out there and shock some people because it's less about the nerds and their laptops and more about the guys driving the cars. If you have not watched NASCAR in the past, if you're not a big NASCAR guy, if you are a NASCAR guy, but you haven't watched in the last few years because it ain't real stock car racing, you need to check back in tonight because tonight it's going to feel more like stock car racing than it's felt in a very long time, and I think that's good for the sport. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, I've got a few bits of Carolina Panthers news for you, and one of the bigger names that reports for Carolina, we've talked about him on the show before, has come around and agreed with yours truly on something. I'll tell you who that is coming up on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. I'm forgetting we got Rashad at 1 o'clock. Don't forget.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. It's not on the list.
Whether it's a bad kick, nagging back pain, or a hip that has you hopping, nothing matters more than getting you back to feeling your best. As South Carolina's most preferred orthopedic provider and official team doctors for the Gamecocks and Tigers, Prisma Health provides all the gear you need. With more expertise, more technology, and more locations closer to you, we're doing even more to help you be your healthiest you. Prisma Health, the orthopedic experts.
Does your sales job come with a free Tesla? No? Well, ours doesn't either. But if you have digital sales experience, you could earn enough to buy the wheels you want. If you understand marketing and love providing marketing solutions for customers, we need to talk. Are you tired of your job? Leave it and get the career and income you want. At Odyssey, you'll earn a salary and commission, enjoy flexible time away, great benefits, and have the resources and training to help you get the income you want. Learn more today at odysseyinc.com/careers. Winners wanted at odysseyinc.com/careers.
Tango day, everybody. Follow after me. And step. And back. And slide. And dip. That's tango.
It's nice to meet you. It's probably the heart-shaped Honey Nut Cheerios. He found out they can help lower cholesterol. Now he's
having fun taking care of his heart in all sorts of ways.
Let's see those hips move, people.
Hurry and get your heart-shaped Cheerio. They're only here for a limited time.
Dell Technologies President's Day business sale has arrived. For a limited time, save up to 45% on all our latest gear to work from anywhere with fast free shipping. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business, so now's the time for incredible savings on PCs, along with servers, monitors, and docks, all with free shipping and quick installation and setup through Dell Installation Services. Get started by shopping online or contacting your Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. Again, the number is 877-ASK-DELL. My leg is painful.
You think I could get away with a combo of colors the girl on the right's wearing? A pink shirt and green pants.
Are those green?
Yeah.
From that, I can't tell
Yeah,
from.
they look like real dark, but if you look at
Yeah.
this TV, they're really, I mean, they're like Kelly green.
You say Kelly green?
Kelly green.
I don't know what that is.
Kelly green's like a dark green.
Kelly, like Jim Kelly? Is that how
Yeah,
you
Kelly green. Kelly green.
Oh, okay. Although there's two different shades on here. One's light and one's dark for Kelly green. Okay. Kelly green is an intense pure green that sits between blue and yellow in the color wheel. Named after the common Irish family name Kelly. Okay. When you learn something, it's a good day. And it's a good day.
At this point, the expectation is that AD will miss at least 2 weeks, reports ESPN's Dave McMenamin. He'll be reevaluated after the All-Star break. Lakers currently 9th in the West at 27-31 in the play-in tournament. Changes might be coming.
The only trivia question I missed today was a women's team first, and it had to do with hockey, not with soccer. I forget what it was exactly, but I went with soccer, and it was actually hockey. Scoring a goal and something. I forget what it was.
Rob, careful as though he was serenading his pig with REO Speedwagons. Keep on loving you. That's a text we got.
Yeah, that's not true. My pig's a rocker, dude.
Do you actually own a pig, or were you just messing with me before we came back on air?
My pig is
I mean, you live on a compound.
My
It doesn't
pig-
shock me. VH, very hammy.
Or Van Halen. It depends on how you do that. I mean, you know.
Do you actually own a pig?
He is pot belly, and he's got weird brown looking tufts of fur. It doesn't go everywhere on the pig. It's like in spots.
The thing is, you still haven't said yes. You could be making all of this up to screw with me.
Yeah, I don't have.
And I don't know the truth.
I don't have a pig.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I could have kept going.
Yes or no answer there. I've worked with you long enough to know at this point. The more you let it be known that Lonzo that you don't know Lonzo's screwing with you, the more Lonzo's going to screw with you.
It's the things that got me beat as a child, but now I get paid for it. So, you know.
Dexter says, Rob, have you ever been to Daytona? I've been trying to go forever. I've actually not been to Daytona, ironically enough, as a Florida
Well,
kid.
that's weird. You lived in Florida. How
Yep.
could you not go to Daytona?
Because Daytona was 8 hours from me. I've been to Talladega twice. I've been to Atlanta, and I've been to Charlotte Roval. Those are the 4 I've been to. I went to the Roval last year. I went to Atlanta circa 2009, 8. Kurt Busch won that race.
See, I'm laughing about it because when people hear you're from a state and they mention a place, they think you've been there, not realizing
States are big,
the
people.
states are pretty big. Yes.
Florida's an enormous state, right? And I lived as far on that side of it as you could, and Daytona's as far on that side of it as you could. About 8 hours between
And
us.
you know how you can tell what Rob was actually doing there? If you go to YouTube or ESPN Upstate's Facebook page, you could actually see what he just did.
I pointed that way, and then I pointed that way, which doesn't help you if you're not on the stream.
That's right. Well, no, you don't unless you get on the stream and watch it.
Facebook.com/ESPN Upstate, Twitter.com/ESPN Upstate, or search The Rob Brown Show. on YouTube. If you got a smart TV, you can put it right up on your TV and watch us like the stars that we are. Texter says, now you're obligated to go to Darlington, the real Redneck Riviera. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will have you know the Florida Panhandle is the Redneck Riviera. Waterfront is required for it to be a Riviera, and we got plenty of the most beautiful beaches in the world covered in camouflage bush light cans and Confederate flag bikinis. Come on down and visit the great city of Destin, Florida, ladies and gentlemen. But I will tell you that I've got a group of NASCAR buddies. I got a group of NASCAR buddies here in the upstate. And right now on the books for this upcoming season, Zoe, the goal is to hit Darlington, Charlotte, both road course and the cookie cutter, Atlanta, Talladega, and Bristol for the dirt race all this upcoming year. The only problem that it's going to is going to cause a problem for us is that the Bristol road race or the Bristol dirt race this year is on Easter Sunday, which I don't love the scheduling of that, right? Put it a week later. I'm still going, but I know a lot of folks are going to be out for that, which is unfortunate. It'll still sell out, even if it's just people from Tennessee. All right, let's get some Panthers news. And coming up at 1 o'clock, Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, is going to join us on the show, and we're going to spend some time talking about the Panthers. But there is a little bit of Panthers news over the last couple of days. The coaching staff has been rounded out for Matt Rule. Over the last 2 days, it has been reported that Matt Rule's revamped coaching staff is now entirely locked in. Hiring of new wide receivers coach Joe Daly, which was dropped by Pete Thamel, actually, funny enough, earlier in the week, completed that. Daly most recently headed the wideouts role at Boston College for the past few seasons, replaces Frisman Jackson in that spot. Tight ends coach Brian Angelicchio is leaving the organization for an opportunity elsewhere. So Kevin Gilbride, a defensive analyst for Carolina last season, and the former tight ends coach under offensive coordinator Ben McAdoo back in New York, will assume those duties. What you are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is that a handful, oh, and by the way, the assistant offensive line coach role, which was vacated when Tony Sparano Jr. jumped to the Giants, will be filled by Robert Kugler. Kugler is a 29-year-old who has had stints with the University of Texas El Paso, the University of Washington, and Appalachian State University, worked under new Panthers offensive line coach James Campen as an assistant with the Texans last year. Campen came in, obviously, as the offensive line coach after McAdoo came in as the offensive coordinator. You've got two other coaches coming in that have connections with Ben McAdoo. McAdoo is going to be a very, very big player in how this Panthers team is run this year, right? But as I've told you guys a number of times, I also think Ben McAdoo was brought in to kind of help shape up where the Carolina Panthers want to go in the NFL draft. I told you a couple of weeks ago, I thought Malik Willis was the guy, right? I thought Malik Willis was the guy. I think he's got the longer-term better upside of any of the quarterbacks coming up in this draft. I think the guy's a bona fide star. I don't rank him quite as highly as I ranked Lamar Jackson when he was coming out of Louisville into the NFL, but I got him a very, very close second to Lamar in terms of guys that I point and go, I think that guy can be a stud. However, smoke coming out of Charlotte right now is that Kenny Pickett has skyrocketed up the Carolina Panthers wish list. If they do indeed decide to go quarterback at the 6th spot, then Kenny Pickett might be that guy. All of that to tell you that I found an article earlier in the week that was written by a young man we've talked about on this show many times, Anthony Rizzuti. Anthony Rizzuti writes for Panthers Wire, and I think he's actually done a pretty good job over the years. Anthony Rizzuti has now come around to the Rob Brown school of thought that says that the Panthers are likely going to go quarterback with their first-round draft pick coming up in April. Rizzuti writes that after a second straight 5-win campaign and 2 huge misses in Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold, Matt Rule heads into the 22 offseason needing something grand to save his job, and that something grand needs to come at the game's most vital position, end quote. And Rizzuti goes on later on in the blog post to say that he believes that ultimately the Panthers make a play at quarterback. That being said, Lonzo, he does not necessarily agree that the quarterback will come in through the draft. In fact, he threw out another name of a free agent quarterback that is likely going to be replaced this year after guiding his team to the NFC playoffs, to be replaced with a quarterback that was drafted to be his replacement in the last draft. Anthony Rizzuti is making the theory, Lonzo, that the Carolina Panthers may take a chance with Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe in play to bring Jimmy G to be the new quarterback, which would open up their 6th round or their 6th overall draft pick to go get the offensive lineman that most of the fans seem to want them to go find. I don't hate it.
That's interesting. I don't hate it either, but there are a lot of people who cannot stand Jimmy Garoppolo and have no confidence in him at all, and would probably say that there's not much of a difference. But there is, because Garoppolo wins games. When he plays, they win, whether it's in New England or San Francisco. Sam Darnold, you can't say that about.
Yeah. No, listen, Sam Darnold's not starting next year. I'm putting that one on the books right now. All right. You picked up the 5th-year extension, excuse me. It's going to cost you some money, but I'm going to go ahead and make the call right now. Sam Darnold's not your starting quarterback when we start up the 2022-23 season. I'm relatively confident in that. I don't know what it's going to take to get him off the books. I don't know if you're going to get him off the books. You just may make him your backup next year, right? The highest paid backup in the National Football League. But Sam Darnold's not starting next year. My thought up until about 48 hours ago was, I genuinely think Malik Willis is the guy. Then people made the argument about Kenny Pickett, right? And I think it's a very fair argument. Most of us think that Malik Willis out of Liberty has the chance to come in and be a star, but that long-term, Kenny Pickett likely has the higher upside in the National Football League, right? He's probably got the higher ceiling. He's probably got the ability to be a long-term option longer than Malik. However, the Panthers are in a bad spot to have to make that call because Matt Rule has 8 years to save his job. So who do you take? The guy that's NFL ready now, but probably doesn't have the A, longevity of the other, or B, ceiling of the other? Or do you take the guy that's probably going to be around longer and be more of a prototypical NFL quarterback, but is going to take him 2 or 3 years to develop when Matt Rule knows he needs to do better than 5 wins if he wants to save his job? The answer is Kenny Pickett. However, I'll tell you right now, you know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. He's an established commodity. He's a multi-time playoff quarterback. He's been to the dance. Jimmy G might be the best option on the table because it leaves that 1st round 6 overall draft pick in play to go find yourself an offensive lineman.
I was going to say, the key point that you made there is the fact that Matt Rule knows his job's on the line. Maybe in other years you would go for Kenny Pickett, but because you know you need to win right now, you go with someone who wins wherever he is.
If this is year 1 for Matt Rule, Kenny Pickett's playing quarterback for the Panthers next year. But this is year 3 for Matt Rule. Years 1 and 2 were bad. You got to go with the guy who gives you the best chance to win now. And Jimmy G's not the guy that's going to give you the best chance to be winning for 6 or 7 or 8 years. But he does give you the best chance to win next year. I don't hate that thought for Mr. Rizzuti. Let's take a break, come back, wrap up hour number 1. Rashad Beard at 1 o'clock. John Harkes at 1:20. Then we'll take your calls the back half of hour number 2. Start off hour number 2 with Doug, or hour number 3 with Doug Irwin at 2 o'clock. You can ask Doug questions to be answered on behalf of the Triumph. Then Fight Club at 2:20. Twitter trending topics to wrap us up at 2:45. We're busy all the way through. Stick around on the Rob Brown Show at ESPN Upstate.
Bye. Pardon me for just a moment. Stream. Sorry about that. Had to get the old nose cleared out. Allergies killing me today, son.
They teamed up with podiatrists who used over 20 years of data to create a shoe that provides total foot and arch support for all-day comfort. ArchFit distributes support across the arch.
So I'm going to see Uncharted tonight, and Cameron asked, do we want to see it in IMAX? Like, yeah, we do. Because that's a movie that needs to be seen in IMAX.
It looks like it.
Just from playing the video games. And it looks like they went to a ton of look. There's no way. Someone shoved that underneath. You're going to have to move it. Move the basket, man. At least from here, it looks like there's nothing visible. Are you bowling? Really? Hope there's no liquid left in that. Sure there isn't. Well, probably not now because it's probably on the floor, but. Yeah. It is pretty loud. But at least people know when you miss. I think you're throwing it like a bowling ball, thinking that you have the weight of the ball, and that thing lifts when you throw it.
Yeah.
That can lift
Well,
it.
my goal was like go under the desk, hit the back wall, and then it'll just fall in.
Should just bounce it off the floor.
It's not got that much bounce. If I
What if
crushed
you throw it
I
hard
probably
enough?
I could have Gronk spiked it.
Some spin on it. It's round. It could have jumped into the air.
For some reason, I thought you said put some spit on it, and I'm like, how is that going to help?
Well, you could do that too, but no. Apparently, enunciation is not one of my strong suits. You're right, Steven. It could happen, but I got protective glass. It'd be more of a problem for him, though. It could bounce back and hit him and take that thing out of there.
Just the right amount of data with TracFone's $40 unlimited talk and text smartphone plan. Now with 8 gigs of high-speed data and unlimited carryover on America's largest, most dependable network, now with 5G. Get the data you need at the price you want. TracFone Wireless, now you're in control. Available at major retailers. 5G compatible device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at TracFone.com.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep the facility running, no matter the weather or supply chain pickup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, and Maria in Miami, Jules in Minneapolis, and Stan in Central Indiana. taking control of everything.
Did you see Brock's explanation for why he wears a ponytail now
Here for you.
Yeah.
on McAfee Show? That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
He will look like that in order to not lose a bet with his child. That's amazing.
I think it's a great look for him. And when you're wearing a cowboy hat like that, it doesn't really
Even
matter.
if it wasn't, who's going to tell him?
Yeah, that's true.
The Rob Brown Show wrapping up hour number 1. Told you in the last segment that there's a theory floating around now that maybe the Panthers don't select a quarterback with the number 6 overall pick. Maybe they either pick a lineman there or they utilize that for trade capital, trade back a handful of picks, because there are rumors that there are a few teams, including the Pittsburgh Steelers, now that Ben Roethlisberger's out, the New Orleans Saints, unknown if Jameis Winston will re-sign with them and be the starter next year. But there are rumors that there are a handful of teams that are looking at trading up to get their pick of Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Sam Howell. So the talk now is that the Panthers could instead look for an established quarterback in the league and go grab Jimmy Garoppolo to be their new starter. Texter says, hell no to Jimmy G. Why keep using assets for quarterbacks that is not getting to the promised land? He couldn't do it with the talent San Francisco has. What makes people think he can do it at a place like Carolina? Remember, they were 3 points out from defeating the Super Bowl champions. 3 points out from defeating the Super Bowl champions, right? That being said, they do have a lot more talent offensively. Carolina does. But I think people underappreciate the amount of talent that Carolina has, specifically at the wide receiver spots. You give him that talent, maybe Jimmy G can be the guy. But again, it's about building, except Matt Rule, who is gone if he doesn't turn it around. So is Jimmy G the play? We'll ask Rashad Beard that at the Panther Nation podcast when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
AutomotiveMap.com presents your ESPN Upstate Sports Center updates powered by The Score. Furman basketball, as you heard right here, they pick up the win against Western Carolina yesterday, 103-85. Mike Bothwell scored a game-high 25 points.
So since we didn't discuss it further, we're just going phone, right?
What's that?
We're just going phone.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't get a chance yesterday to reach out to him. By the time I got out of here, I completely blanked. Actually, no, let me send him an invite on Facebook, see if he'll.
They will play at Charleston Southern coming up on Saturday. College basketball this evening. Coastal Carolina will continue down the home stretch.
Well, I got to pick one or the other.
Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps.
Then I need to have time to
Actually, you
test
know
it.
what? Go ahead and call him
Yeah.
and tell him I'm sending him an invite if he wants to use it. But if it's too late, that
Have wondered aloud if, quote unquote, the Houston Texans got the call from the league office on Lovie Smith. I don't want to act as though Lovie Smith hasn't earned an NFL job on his own merit. We're well aware of the climate that's existing right now in the league surrounding Brian Flores. Let me put it overly qualified for the job.
Hello. It's probably too late to send the StreamYard thing, right? Because, I mean. Okay, well, Rob sent you one on Facebook
and Twitter.
and Twitter, he said. So I just need to test it. I want to keep you on the phone just in case it doesn't work, because we have it. Obviously, we're not. So, I mean, you know. I was going to say, we got 30 seconds. If you can't do it, okay. Yeah, I see you. Device not connected. There we go.
It takes a second.
We're getting there. All right, now let me see if I can hear you on the thing. Say something on your mic. Rashad, say something on your mic. All right, I'm not hearing it. Yeah, I'll have to talk to engineering. We may bring you up anyway and just use the phone and the video.
However you want me to do it.
All right, hold on.
Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is ESPN Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob, Lonzo, and you. And now to the phone lines / the stream we go. A face-to-face greeting between the voice that you hear every Thursday at 1 o'clock to talk a little Carolina Panther football with us. My man, Rashad Beard, one half of the host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us now on the show. Rashad, what's up, my guy? How we doing, big fella?
All is well. All is well, man. No complaints over here.
I'm glad to hear
All
it.
right. Do you feel inefficient? Do you feel like, maybe?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a terrible planner because I forgot to ask Rashad this last week.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, the hair club?
Yeah.
The hair club? I feel left out because Rashad's got the locks. Zoe's got the locks. And I'm over here rocking this. I do feel inadequate.
I think the whole Rashad and I rocking your boy banding.
Thank you, buddy.
That's what it is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can check us out on the stream, by the way, Facebook.com/ESPN Upstate, Twitter.com/ESPN Upstate, or search The Rob Brown Show on YouTube. And Rashad's joining us here on the stream for the first time. Our buddy Steven has popped up and said, "What's up, Rashad? Thank you for bringing some Panther Nation to this show." So already with the fan club love, Rashad Beard.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. This was fun.
I dig it. All right, let me throw a theory at you, Rashad. We've been talking about the Panthers potentially drafting a quarterback the last couple of weeks, but I saw a little while ago, last night, I guess, a theory that has been floated that I'm intrigued to see if A, you've heard any smoke to so far, and B, to see if you like it. So I've told you, I think Malik Willis is the guy. I think he offers the best chance for the Panthers to have a good year. Maybe not the longest term success, but a good year, which is all Matt Rule's looking for if he wants to keep the job. But there was a writer for Panthers Wire that floated the idea last night of, instead of drafting a quarterback in the 6th spot, hang on to that spot and get an offensive lineman, or trade it back and get some capital and bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, since it's all but evident that Jimmy G's gone from San Francisco. My dude, you know what I love about StreamYard? I just got to watch Rashad rub his face in frustration from this theory, which tells me already, Shad, you don't like it.
No, I don't. I hate it. I hate the idea of another Band-Aid quarterback, another Band-Aid solution. I'm not with it. And I've seen all the, all of the hoopla about Tepper being aggressive and getting a guy. But I'm not with another Jimmy G, Sam Darnold, or another recycled quarter. It just doesn't make any sense. Jimmy Garoppolo would do nothing for us that we haven't already done. More L's on top of L's. He had the best situation he could have ever been in and still couldn't deliver. And so I don't want that type of quarterback. It's no disrespect to him. I just feel like you were set up to succeed with like the best run game in the league. You had a really good defense, and you still couldn't get it done with the 49ers. So with that being said, step that down and imagine what the result you're going to get from the Carolina Panthers. It doesn't make sense.
Rashad, I'd just like to point out that you just said Jimmy G coming in would be L's on L's, but then said no disrespect.
Because I don't know. I try to put myself in a situation as me, like, going to talk to these people at some point, and so I don't mean to disrespect. I'm saying it's just the truth.
Listen, as a broadcast professional, and I use that word very loosely, I completely understand. So the thought process, obviously, there, Rashad, is that by bringing in Jimmy G, you get a guy who's established. He's been deep in the playoffs. Yeah, fell to the Rams this year, but the Rams did go on to win the Super Bowl, so you lost to the eventual champs. It gives you an established, known commodity who has had success, maybe not a ring, but the guy's been to an NFC championship a couple times. what was one missed throw away from winning this thing with Debo, obviously out of South Carolina, as his number one weapon. But it saves that number one spot to add to the offensive line in front of him. Is that not worth the trade-off to you to go find the next guy who's going to play maybe right tackle across from Brady Christensen? Is there just not enough of a trade-off? And if so, do you believe that Malik or Kenny Pickett can do more for you than Jimmy Garoppolo could do if they're both available?
Yeah, no, I just think Jimmy G is, again, like, it's not just about the quarterback in isolation, right? It's about everything else that's around him. I mean, he's got a really good like the defense was really, we don't have that defense. We don't have that offensive line. We don't have the run game that they have. We don't have a lot of things that Jimmy G needs to be successful. So we got a long way to go in order to kind of make him or put him in the best position to succeed. I just don't think it's the right move. You just kind of get it. I'd rather you go all in on a surefire thing than taking another fly like on Jimmy G. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather get somebody in here, one on a rookie contract, or get me a guy that's a proven commodity. Like, I don't know, just thinking out loud, Deshaun Watson or something like that. Go get somebody else that's proven, right? Don't get another what if guy. We've done that a couple of times. Teddy Bridgewater, we've done it with. Sam Darnold. Like, that's it. That's enough. Like, go get us a real guy.
So here's my question. Now, reports are coming out of Houston that Deshaun has basically narrowed his I would accept a trade destinations to Tampa and Minnesota, right? Minnesota seems more likely, I think, because they are not going to want to put more money into Kirk Cousins' contract, and they may be able to get a sweetheart deal out of Deshaun if he wants to be there. But Carolina's not been mentioned as a trade possibility for Deshaun Watson. So if he's off the table and you want a known commodity, knowing you got to do a better job than Sam Darnold, who does Rashad Beard think is the known commodity? Because I don't think you can know whether Malik, Kenny Pickett, or Matt Corral are the correct known commodity. You may not know that Jimmy G's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback yet, but you know what he can do in the NFL. What would you say is the known commodity you would prefer if you're the GM today?
Yeah, I also know what Jimmy G can't do. So I'm cool on Jimmy G, man. He's not it. I know that. I know he's not the answer. As far as I don't know. I think the best option, and I don't know who's all available at this moment. But I would say that, the ideal situation would be for us to get a young quarterback, right? Go out there and draft a guy. But again, if we're not getting one of those guys, if it's not Deshaun or anybody else, I'm not taking up Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I don't know. Again, I know Aaron Rodgers is likely to go back to Green Bay. But if it's not one of those guys, man, like, draft the quarterback and try to figure it out that way. I've been hearing all the rumblings, though, that Tepper wants to take a swing on a big guy. They're going to be all in on whatever situation, whoever's available. And again, I don't know, Russell Wilson, he's another guy that may be out there. Like, if you're not going to get one of those guys, go draft a guy. Like, Russell Wilson would be ideal. Like, he went to NC State. He's from here. That would be ideal. Like, if you can get a Russell Wilson, the connection with Scott Fitter, that would be ideal as well. So that's the kind of guys I'm talking about. Known commodities that are successful, and we know that they wouldn't be a liability. And if not, it just depends. It's really funny because you got the head coach situation too, right? That also plays into this, because you gotta if you draft a quarterback, you need that time for the quarterback to perform. Getting the known commodity kind of helps that out. So it's a balance. It's difficult for us to figure this out.
Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC and subscribe to their YouTube channel. It's tremendous stuff. So I'm listening to you say this, Rashad, and I like what you're saying. There's some I disagree with, some I agree with. But here's my question.
You can't disagree with me.
Rashad sounds like me. I like it. All right. So we know, scratch that. We are relatively confident that Matt Rule's got to do better than 5-12 if he wants to keep this job. If he wants to keep this job. If he's sitting there knowing he's got to do better than 5-12, how much does that influence the way that he makes this move, right? Like, let's say he looks at this and he goes, I don't know that Jimmy Garoppolo can win a Super Bowl. He's had multiple chances, played for maybe the best team in the NFC last year and couldn't get past L.A. But we know that he's a quarterback that can get into the playoffs. He's done it multiple times with a couple of teams now. We know where his limit is. Matt Rule says, I don't have a year to develop Malik Willis. I don't have a year to develop Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral. I've got to win now. Does Matt Rule's need urgency to win now overrule what is better for the Panthers for 3 or 4 or 5 years worth of growth?
Yeah, that's the scary part. And that's something I've been saying for a long, long, long time, is that his future definitely and his need to win definitely is going to impact the short term and potentially the long term, right? So he's going to be looking at, like you just said, he's going to be looking at going to get one of these veteran quarterbacks. But, how does that impact us in the future? Like, ideally, it would be, rip the Band-Aid off, get rid of Matt Rule right now, and let's draft a quarterback and build it that way. But Tepper's impatience and then, the pressure on top of, us needing to have a winning season next season, it definitely impacts it. I think he feels the pressure. Everybody else feeling the pressure. So I think they're going to do whatever it takes. And if one of those guys are made available, and even like you just said, I think you hit it on the head, that if Jimmy G can just get me to the playoffs, I mean, that's enough. I think that might be enough for him. And it could just put us in a situation where we're with Jimmy G for the next couple of years, not going to make that push to get a Super Bowl, but we're going to be a perennial playoff team potentially. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be the case with Jimmy G. Again, I go back to the offensive court. We don't have Kyle Shanahan. We don't have that offensive mind here. It's not the same. So I don't think that he's the right guy. But I definitely understand what you're saying, and it does make complete sense that, just get me a guy to get me to the playoffs, and I'm not necessarily worried about the future long term.
Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. Obviously, Rashad, we've seen the coaching staff get rounded out now. We talked a little bit about that back in the last hour. And one thing I noticed, there's a couple of guys that have been brought in that have connections to Ben McAdoo, guys that have worked for Ben McAdoo, coach for him back in New York, either under him as the OC or the head coach during the season there. To me, it kind of seems like Ben McAdoo's been given a lot of power, a lot of power to dictate how this team is going to operate. Is Matt Rule trusting Ben McAdoo here? Was this kind of maybe part of the hiring process of Ben McAdoo? Hey, we're going to bring you in, but we're going to make sure you have a lot of say. Or is this Matt Rule kind of saying, you know what, I'm going to hand the reins to a guy who was a pretty successful OC and see if maybe a mix of our systems will do better? What's your thoughts on why we're seeing Ben McAdoo seemingly get a little bit more control of the accelerator?
I mean, it makes sense, right? And going back to what we said earlier, like, hey, I need to be successful. We got to win now. So, dude, if you need to bring in whoever you need to bring in for us to be successful, that's what we're going to do. And I hope they had that conversation. It appears, like you're saying, that a lot of these guys have ties to McAdoo. That's cool. I mean, whatever, from my perspective, from a fan perspective, whatever it takes to get us W's, man, I don't care who you bring in. You can bring me in. As long as we're getting W's, it really doesn't matter to me. I think, the staff has improved. I know we had a lot of guys take lateral moves elsewhere. And I think overall the staff has improved. And I'm hopeful because there's a lot of experience behind them now. There's a lot of guys that have NFL head coaching experience. They have, experience in their positions. So I feel like hopefully that's, helpful with Matt Rule and helping him to be successful. So I'm hopeful that whatever it takes McAdoo, and I'm hopeful that Matt Rule says, hey, you need such and such. He's worked with you in the past. Free reign. You do what you need to do for you to be successful, and in turn, I will be successful. So I hope that's the case.
Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. All right, Rashad, we got, a couple of months away from the NFL drafts, and this is kind of where the NFL news is going to go quiet for a little while, right? Teams are going to start throwing up smoke screens. They're going to get real quiet about who they like, who they don't, and why. What, if anything, do you expect to see, and what do you want to see coming out of Charlotte over the next 2 months as we get ready for the draft? Is it a play for a Russell Wilson and Sean Watson? I mean, what kind of stuff are you looking for?
Yeah, I think we need to answer the quarterback, whether it's going to be we're sticking with Sam Darnold, or I would like to see some sort of direction at the quarterback position. We're making some sign. We did re-sign Frankie Louvu today, which I think was a great move. So that's solid. I'd like to see some more signings happen. I think during this 2-month period, free agency is going to open. We're going to have the combine. So there's going to be a lot of action over the next 2 months. So I just hope that we're active, but active in the right scenarios and not just making crazy moves for the sake of making crazy moves. If we're going to make a move at quarterback, I'd like to see it be for someone with experience, not an average guy. Like, let's go and get a real guy like a Russell Wilson, whoever it may be. No more Band-Aids. Let's go fix it. We played around with the quarterback position for far too long. Let's go ahead and fix it. If not, let's put our eyes on a solid draft pick and take the draft pick. But I would like an answer for the quarterback position. I think it's going to dictate a lot. I'd like to see us sign a couple more guys, get that interior offensive line fixed. But other than that, man, again, I just think I'm hopeful that the assistant coaching staff and that we've got the improvements we made in the coaching staff could help Matt Rule be a little bit more productive next year and improve. We'll see. I'm just as much as a spectator as you are, because I don't know what the hell is going on, to be truthful. I'm sitting back watching what's going on, man, hoping they're making the right decisions, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So
it's an interesting follow. I got no doubt it's going to stay that way up till the draft. Rashad Beard is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. Again, you can follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC, but maybe more importantly, find their YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that bell notification. They go live multiple times a week with everything you know if you are a Panthers fan. Rashad, man, glad to have you. We'll get a little earlier set up on the stream next week. Glad it worked out. Appreciate your time as always, my guy.
All good, man. Anytime, man. Thankful for coming on. Appreciate you guys.
You know, that is Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. When we come back, John Harkes, head coach of the Greenville Triumph, is going to join us ahead of their preseason matchup with Clemson next Saturday. We'll have a rundown of what the preseason looks like, the roster changes, what the goals are for the season upcoming, and more with John Harkes right here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate.
ones like you who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants.
I don't know why it didn't work. I went to see if I could find an engineer and I couldn't. That's why I left the room. Because my understanding is it should have been on router channel 3 and I wasn't getting anything. And last time didn't get anything. Someone changed a setting. Engineering changed the setting.
Maybe that's the one thing that broke that they didn't know about. Now, why would that have changed?
Well, because before, remember I couldn't get on that one day when I was at home?
Yep.
And Chris had to fix it?
Yeah.
That's what it was. And he could have fixed it from in there if I could have found him.
Yeah.
But since we already had him on phone, and it really isn't.
Yeah. It synced up perfect.
Yeah, I was going to say there wasn't a syncing.
It synced up perfect. Like, surprisingly. We started talking, I'm like, oh, this is spot on.
I don't know if it shows up on stream, though.
We'll find out.
It should. And then I had him muted, and then I unmuted him because the phones are utility and utilities feeding into it. And I was afraid it would cause a
feedback
thing.
loop.
Yeah, so I remuted him. So we'll have to go back and listen and find out. But Steven's probably watching on stream, and if he is, he would have.
Yeah, those of you that watch on stream,
he would have let me know if he couldn't hear him.
Yeah,
which I'm good with.
Enough.
Yeah.
When he first, Steven says when he first came on, he heard him on the stream.
So he didn't afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, so all right, lesson learned.
So they heard him on the stream, but we didn't hear him, and we've got to hear him on the air, obviously.
No, that's not what he means. I muted it halfway through, which means he disappeared on the stream, probably. Not halfway through, but partway through. As with most things we learn on the fly. So I'll go back and listen to it later. Steven says he heard the whole thing, though. So we're good.
Over the stream, or did you hear? Because we had the audio from the phone going back over the stream. Did you hear him on the stream?
See, the audio from the phone feeds into the stream, so it should have worked fine.
Right.
Yeah, so it should be, yeah. Okay. Which on StreamYard, Steven, that's what he's going to sound like anyway. He still will sound like he's over the phone.
Would he?
Yeah. I mean, it should be a little bit cleaner feed.
I was going to say, it should be his computer audio.
Did my feed sound better than a phone feed
No,
when I
but
was?
I think that's because you were using an Xbox headset.
Probably.
I think if we set you up with like a
well,
mic.
Cameron's feed is not it's not loud enough. Chris was talking to me about it, and he's using a podcast mic whenever he's.
You run it into a mixing board?
No, he's running through the computer.
Cheap mixing board and run that, and that way he'll have better volume control.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. You can get a little mix. I've got that. Have I showed you my mixing board? I've got a nice little mixing board. It's a 4-channel mixing board. It cost me like $50.
Really?
And it's a nice little board. Like it's a studio caliber
See,
board.
his he may already have those capabilities. I mean, I just didn't look close enough.
Yeah.
I'll be seeing him later. I'll talk to him later and figure it out. Because Chris said he was listening to the show while he was out and his volume was really low. And I've noticed when I've had to produce it, it was really low.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Rob Lonzo. And to the phone lines we go to welcome in a friend of my show, a friend on and off the air, and a gentleman that I can tell you for sure hits the longest drive in the Upstate. I've watched him do it. Head coach of your Greenville Triumph, Coach John Hartz, joins us here on the show. Coach, welcome back, man. Great to have you back.
Wow, what an introduction, my friend. I have the longest drive. Did I win the competition, Rob, that day?
Listen, I've played a lot of golf with dudes from around the Upstate. I've played with some of the guys from the hockey team, from the baseball team. I've played with you and Doug and Chris. Oh. Coach, you have outdriven all of them to the point that I almost retired my driver, and I'm just going irons off the block from now on because I can't keep up.
Oh, man. Great to be on the best sports show in South Carolina once again. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Coach. I'm doing very well. I'll ask the same for you because I know with roster moves and scheduling preseason exhibitions and we're just a tick over a month away from the start of the regular season. Things around the office feeling a little hectic for the boys right now, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it's just, come in and make sure that we've done enough work, Rob, and prepared properly in the off season to be ready to hit the ground running, from day one. February 10th was our first on-field, official training session in the preseason for us. We had a week build up to that where guys are moving in, obviously, and getting to know each other and, apartments, physicals and everything through our new regional partner, the medical partner, Spartanburg Regional. It's fantastic. So they've been excellent. And everything's been great so far. We've had a couple of injuries here and there. So we're keeping them busy and our athletic trainer as well. But other than that, things have been going pretty well so far. Getting back to the game and all the work that we've done in the off season in terms of how do we restructure this roster, and why. Asking our questions that way in the off season, and to be fair, doing a lot of self-reflection as a group, as coaches. Are we doing the best job to manage this group, and how do we get better? Because I'm not the only one who's disappointed that we didn't win that final, and so we've got to figure out a good way to look back on ourselves and be honest and say, what could we have done better, and how do we construct this roster to do better? So a lot of work went into it in the off season. But we're excited. We're excited for the year ahead.
Talk to me about the roster and your approach to it this offseason, because we have seen the departure of some stalwarts, some guys that have been there from the beginning, like Dallas J. We have seen the departure of some guys that were integral players last year. Marios Lomos headed back to Europe after a phenomenal year with the Triumph last year. When you have this much turnover, especially coming off a season where you were so close, one step away from the ultimate goal, still a hell of a season overall, Coach, but you've got to kind of start to work on a roster, especially with the turnover you guys have had. How do you attack that? And maybe give me a couple of names of guys that are showing up on this roster that Triumph supporters want to keep an eye on this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to understand that, there could be that rotation of players on a yearly basis, because you always want to look to improve. You want to evolve as a club. And so sometimes the timing of a player being involved in your style of play and the basic principles that you actually stick to and run your team on is important to that group, from an individual basis. But within the collective, it's a team first mentality. So we're looking for players that are hungry, that want to put on the Greenville Triumph jersey, to understand the expectations in our club. We have been to 3 finals, 3 championship games we've been to, and in 3 years. So as we go into our 4th year, we have to make sure that we are in the frame of mind that we understand it's not just ability alone of the player we're bringing in here, but that mentality that they can actually take maybe the expectations of this club and what we need to be. We want to be in the final. We want to win the final. But we're also a club, we understand, at the Division III level for development too. We're a community club. We want to make sure that our partners and our relationships that we do on a year-to-year basis make sense for us in the community. So everything about it is we're growing. But we're always asking ourselves, how do we improve? 10 players have moved on from this group from last year, and everybody might be thinking, wow, that's the most you've moved on. Sometimes it's about developing these players like a Dallas J, who has absolutely been brilliant for us. I mean, quality goalkeeper, great character off the field as well in terms of in the community, great leader. He was ready to go and test himself at another level. He went to Monterey. Frank Yallop coaches there. He's doing a startup club in the USL Championship. So it made sense for Dallas to challenge himself in that environment at that particular time. And now we have Paul Christensen, who you saw emerge last year out of the shadows of Dallas J, and Ben Hale, another Furman product that comes in, and he's ready to play and compete as a goalkeeper. So bringing in other players that make sense, guys that want to fill those gaps. Marios Lomos, as you said, scored 16 goals for us last year. He was quality, but we've got to have another guy or two. We got Jake Keegan back this year, which is great because he's come in with a chip on his shoulder and he's come back. We know the great work he did in the first year. And the second year he went to forward Madison, and now he's back here in the third year. I mean, now he's back here for the fourth year, and he's been looking sharp. So a lot of great quality players that have come into this group. Some things to look forward to. Yeah, and we still have some trial bases that are on there as well. But a guy like Alan Gavilanes, who, is really standing out as a young player coming out of New Jersey and, standing out on the field and really taking over games. A guy like Nico Brown, who came into the frame mid-season from Maryland Bobcats and stuff like that up in Maryland. He's fantastic. He's come into it now. And then we've got a guy like Jesus Ibarra, who scored the goal against Chattanooga SC, put us through in the playoff round. And experienced players, like really core players like Aaron Walker, Tyler Pollock, Don Smart, Evan Lee, Brandon Fricky, like these guys that drive that culture on a daily basis. Like they get it. And so they're all returning, which is great. And you mix in a guy like a creative player like Lucas Coutinho, who used to be at Tormenta, who is at Tulsa in the USL Championship as a number 10, that creative, imaginative type of player. And you create those relationships years ago when he was at Tormenta, and then he trusts what we're doing here, and I'm able to bring him in. So, these guys, we want to challenge them. We want to find out what their individual player development plan is, number one, and then how does that fit into the collective group, the team, as we go forward and as we evolve in this club. A lot of good trialists that are here as well. Some quality players that makes our decisions hard, Rob, but at the end of the day, we want to have those problems. So we really do.
Talk to me, Coach, a little bit about how this impacts you, because obviously when you've got a team built like the team you had last year, there are tactics and formations and strategies that you as a head coach want to employ. But when you've got so many movings and pieces and parts on the roster, you and your coaching staff obviously are going to have to adapt to what the new roster looks like, what new individual players look like, how they fit along in different pieces and formations. What does an offseason like this look like for John Hark's coaching staff when you guys are trying to look at a rotating roster and say, okay, maybe we change this, maybe we switch this formation, maybe on set pieces we try this year because of this new guy? How's that offseason shape up for you when you're trying to make these decisions and these strategies to develop them for this next season?
Yeah, it's understanding what our style of play is and then fitting in the right players into that. And so whether that be in a 1-4-3-3 with the three midfielders and the central guys and one attacking player with two really wide wingers. We've looked at our shape last year at times where we had the two strikers up front as well in a 4-4-2 kind of shape. We want flexibility, Rob, to answer your question. We want flexibility to adapt to games on a weekly basis because now everybody is studying everybody. People all know, like the Greenville Triumph, they have this unbelievable style of play. And even though we struggled in a patch last year, we were able to still have that resilience and our mentality and our mindset push us through into the final to get there. So we want to be able to leave creativity, a room for creativity with our final third. We have to be better in scoring goals. We want to score more goals. We've always been a very good defensive team. We want to continue to make sure we don't lose that mindset to defend as a unit. And that's having the right players on the field to do that. What do we like with the ball in possession? What do we like without the ball? And so that mindset, you have to have that transitional moments in the game where players and athletes switch on. How quickly can they do it? Is there a 1 to 2 second pause where they react too late and then we get caught like we did in the final? Or is there a player that says, okay, we might have turned the ball over here, but at the same time, now I can transition defend a lot quicker. And that enhances performance for us, without a doubt. And we see that, and we see where we can be better. I've also asked our coaching staff to reflect on how we led. Did we set the team up for success as we went to the final? Did we do everything right? And to build off of that. So we're honest in our approach. We have clear lines of communication in this club. We bring in players on trial. We tell them exactly what the expectations are. And there's a lot of discipline that goes into it here, a lot of discipline. And I think that discipline has served us well in getting us to 3 finals out of 3 years. So we want to get back there. It's going to get harder every year, Rob, because all the other teams are getting better. And they also, in terms of, software and products and studying and analytics, and they're seeing all their games now. They're breaking down all our teams. They know what our individual players are like and their key qualities. So it becomes harder. And so we want to make sure that we get our style of play right. We've got to get the players in here that understand that and want to do it right. Good character guys that understand that you're still building. We're still a small club. We're building in this community, and we want to continue to do that.
John Harkes, head coach of the Greenville Triumph here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Coach, let's flip ahead. Next Saturday, you guys are going to open the preseason with an exhibition and a very interesting one. You know, friendlies, you guys got a little more flexibility about who you play, where, and when. But the decision to go up against the NCAA Division I men's football champions, the Clemson Tigers, and do it in their house. Interesting, unique, different from two perspectives. Community-wise, I think this is great, right? I mean, these are two elite upstate football clubs going after each other. And then B, on the pitch itself, what a unique challenge for you guys to kind of look at and get some film down on. How did this match come about? And as the head coach, what are you looking to get out of it?
Well, I mean, look, I have relationships everywhere. Mike Noonan is a good friend of mine. You know, we talk about the game all the time. The number one thing is looking at the calendar in the off season. Does it actually match up? Can we get a game in somewhere? And we've tried to, and it never really did in the off season. It's been difficult, you know, and when we start and when they start, the preseason have always been kind of a little bit odd in terms and didn't really match up properly. This time it did. I mean, we were able to get them on for the 26th. We'll be playing at historic Riggs Field against Clemson. And it's always a great perspective. You get to see the game a little bit differently. Great program that Mike runs over there. It's fantastic. When you think about what they were able to do this year and the success that they had through a lot of adversity too. You know, it's always good to have yourself tested at that level. So whether it's him or Eddie Radwanski, you know, on the women's side, where my daughter was a player there for Eddie. Eddie's a former national team player. On the men's side, he's a Jersey guy. Like all these relationships, you keep them going. And these are good people in the game that have worked really hard, great coaches. And so it's always good. And I think we get to share ideas. It's not about the win-loss column. It's just good from a perspective of how can we learn more about our team? And doing that, like you said, locally. Like last year or 2 years ago, we played Furman. You know, we want to be able to play Clemson. We want to play these universities in here to give us games. But it's also good for the community. It's good for the universities as well. So I'm excited that we got it on our calendar finally. And it'll be our first game of the preseason. So, you know, you want to get out there. You know, there's going to be some rust and there's still development that has to happen. We're still putting together the final roster as well in these training sessions right now. So, look, you know, it's another opportunity for us to get better. So I'm excited about it.
John Harkes is the manager of the Greenville Triumph as they are set to try to improve upon a runner-up spot in USL League One coming up this season. Next weekend, February 26th, they will be at historic Riggs Field in Clemson, taking on the defending NCAA men's soccer national champions, the Clemson Tigers. Coach, great to have you back on the show, man. Looking very much forward to getting this new season started. Real quick, before I let you go, I just thought of this because we've got Doug Irwin coming up at 2:00. You know, obviously there's a lot of discussion and debate about the proposal for the new stadium, et cetera. From a manager's perspective, without getting into the diplomacy of it all, from a manager's perspective, what would it mean to you and to the club to have a stadium to call home, to have a stadium with a set locker room and the routine and all of that? What would it mean to you guys as a club, and how much would it help you if there was a set home stadium for the Triumph?
It's amazing, Rob, to even think about, you know, we're going into year 4 and we're thinking about building this, and credit to Joe Irwin, and Billy, our investors, and everybody, his family. And it's amazing that we can even be in a position to do this. It's important because, as I tweeted out when this first started, there is no place like home. And when you have a home, you have an identity. When you have an identity, that means you grow quicker in the community. And it also gives our players, it's not just a comfort level of playing in your own stadium. It's just like, we can run it. We can actually make money out of it. You know, we can actually have different events there. And Joe has put so much into this. Billy Webster has put so much into this that during the pandemic, we lost a lot of money. So we've got to figure out ways from an operations standpoint to make things better in terms of costs. Having our own stadium and having control of that is a great start. It would mean the world to us if we can get that done. Now, yeah, there's always going to be different ways of getting it done, whether it be public and private and all that. Joe has been around the block more than any of us in terms of doing this stuff at the business level. So we trust him. We're hoping that we can find another way to get this done and get it across the line. And it would be really exciting, Rob, to have our own stadium. It'd be fantastic. So we're excited and we're optimistic about it.
There you go. That is John Harkes, head coach of the Greenville Triumph. Coach, we will be in Clemson next weekend to watch you take on the Tigers. Good luck and looking forward to the season, my friend. Let's get some golf in soon, pal.
You got it, Rob. I'm looking forward to getting back on the golf course. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Greenville Triumph here over at historic Risks Field, and it'll be fun to see each other again. Thanks so much.
We'll be there. There you go. That is John Harkes, head coach of your Greenville Triumph. Let's take a break, come back. You got thoughts? We want to hear them. 844-477-3776. Text us on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
What's up with your one more question? What are you doing?
I wanted to ask that. I would have rather asked that than the preseason question, but I felt the preseason question was kind of important.
It was.
I'm Christine Lisi, developing story. The Lakers racing to be without Anthony Davis yet again this season. ESPN's Dave McMenamin reporting the star power forward is at least 2 weeks with a right ankle sprain sustained last night. Initial x-rays revealed no fracture. He is set for an MRI today.
Going over top. No way it happens.
No, it's that shot's physically impossible. There is no.
Well, I said there's no way it happens.
Yeah, you're only not even that. I was gonna say maybe you could bank it off the door plumb and get it down. No. I don't even know if there's an angle from that shot. You got to do what I did. That goes in. I was gonna be furious.
It's also a round thing, and you were throwing it. Maybe I was better at softball than you were. Maybe that's what it was.
I don't know, man. I was hitting the rim of the trash can consistently.
Or maybe it's the fact that I, had a state champion, softball daughter who I had to be out there and, didn't have to, but was out there, helping her early on. Fly balls in the woods just doesn't work because someone has to go out and
fly
find
balls
them.
At the compound.
Yes. Got to keep an eye on it, see kind of where it landed. Hope you don't discover a nest of something while you go find it.
A nest of something.
Please make sure you take care of your lives before you leave today.
Yes.
I will remind you multiple times.
Yeah. I will do them when the show's over. And I'm also going to go ahead and pre-record tomorrow's daily promo.
Okay.
So that you can, if you don't mind, just have you drop it in after the show tomorrow.
And honestly say I will do my best to remember.
I will do my best to remind you that it's happened. Get in the zone.
America's #1 brakes destination. Right now, you can do the complete job and get a great deal when you buy a set of Duralast brake pads and rotors. It's also AutoZone's national hiring event. We're hiring all positions, from sales to warehouse and drivers, both part-time and full-time. Visit careers.autozone.com or any one of our stores. Claim based on data from
Prisma in the next break.
In sports, 3 goals is a hat trick. And when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, you get a hat trick of great savings and round-the-clock protection. So you might be thinking, wait, that's two things. The hat trick is three. But in this metaphor, great savings counts as two goals, and so does round-the-clock protection. So it's like 4 goals, and that's more than 3. It's basic math.
Forced Metaphors, presented by Progressive. Bundle and protect today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in most states and situations.
More than the scores, the ups and downs, the ins and outs.
Will gets it. Will text in from Boiling Springs and says, I'd go watch soccer if they serve beer. So yes to a new stadium. Beer makes things better. I can tell you right now, Will in Boiling Springs, that this season at Legacy Early College, I mean, all 3 seasons so far, but this season at Legacy Early College, they do serve beer at the Greenville Triumph matches. Ask me how I know. It's because I buy it. That's how I know. Come on out to a game, Will. Come on out to a game, man. They start up April 3rd. All home games at Legacy Early College. There's a bunch of Saturdays. I think there's 2 Wednesday games and a couple of Fridays tossed in there as well. Will, you come out? I'll tell you what. You come to a game. I will personally buy you a beer at the game. If you will come hang out, watch soccer, I will personally. You just text me on the show when we get to the game you're coming to, and I will personally buy you a beer to come watch soccer with us. You know why? Because I want this sport to grow. Coming up at 2 o'clock, Doug Irwin is the chief branding officer of the Greenville Triumph, and we're going to switch gears. We talked with Coach Harks a second ago about the on-the-field aspect of it. Listen, I know that you guys have heard a lot from the Irwins that have already been asked once, why are you having Doug on again? And the answer is this: because I have had Doug on in the past. I have had Joe on the past. We had Doug and Joe both on when the proposal went ahead of the county council for the first time. I do know that Mark had Doug on earlier this week as well. The reason I'm having Doug on is because I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask Doug a question. This is not going to be Rob Brown interviewing Doug Irwin. This is going to be you guys, the ESPN Upstate listening audience, interviewing Doug Irwin. I think I've got 5 questions so far that have been texted into the Preferred Home Services text line. I want you guys to text in any questions that you guys want to ask Doug Irwin. He will answer them coming up at 2 o'clock to start the next hour. Can be about anything, can be about funding, can be about taxes, can be about stadium capacity, can be about usage, can be about conversations they've had with the city of Malden. You guys can ask Doug anything that you want about the stadium, about the proposal, about what's next, about the funding. It is an open text line for you right now. The Preferred Home Services text line is 71307. Doug will be on with us coming up at 2 o'clock. And you guys may ask him any question that you would like. I will take those questions and ask them at Doug at 2 o'clock. So again, 71307, start your text with ESPN and fire off your questions to Doug Irwin of the Greenville Triumph, and I will ask them of him coming up at 2 o'clock. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on our numero dos here in just a minute with the wildest story that I have heard in a very long time. I'm Rob, he's Zoe, and this is ESPN Upstate.
Prisma.
Tell you about my friends at Prisma Health right here in the Upstate. Speaking of the Clemson Tigers, we were just talking about them a second ago. When any athlete in the Clemson Tigers athletic department finds themselves in need of sports medicine help or orthopedic care, they call Prisma Health. Why? Because Prisma Health not only has the most knowledgeable sports medicine and orthopedic departments in the area, but they have got a bunch of medical experts with specialties in every sports injury that the athletes might sustain. So if Clemson sees a Tiger need some sports medicine help, if South Carolina sees the Gamecock athletes need some sports medicine help, and they immediately call Prisma Health, the official healthcare provider for both of those schools, in order to get their athletes fixed up and ready to go, don't you want to know that you and your family have the same resources available to you? Of course you do. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why you need to go to prismahealth.org, prismahealth.org, and learn all about the orthopedic and sports medicine resources that Prisma Health offers to you all across the upstate. Go to prismahealth.org to learn more. It's our friends at Prisma Health right here in the upstate. Ba-ba-da-bum, ba-ba-da-bum, ba-ba-da-bum.
Made a mistake yesterday of jumping from one game to another.
Yep.
With the same kind of play style, and nearly invincible in the one game, and then jumped to one where I'm not, and then started dying. It's like, why am I dying? Oh yeah, the Cyberpunk DLC and stuff tightened everything up.
Yeah.
So
is it worth the retry? Should I jump back in? You start the game over?
I don't know if that will help your version or not, but it'd be worth a shot just to see.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I'm talking about tightening up, I'm talking about as far as weapons and things go, it's real tight. You know how some games it's kind of loose.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a tightness to it to where it's not, you can't just do this.
Like with recoil and
just aiming and a lot of things.
Right.
And the handling of vehicles is supposed to be better. The problem is I never drove real well on the game anyway. So, and the best thing to do on that game is to get a motorcycle, because a motorcycle, you can jump just about anything, and you die sometimes, but for the most part, you just crash the bike and you can get back up. I'll know how well it handles when I get the Batmobile, because there's a Batmobile there, the equivalent of the Batmobile.
Yeah.
You got to wait so many days before you can get to it, and then also there's a sweet motorcycle, the best in the game. You also have to you have to do a story. You got to find the story to get to it. And there's a code and a storage place that you go to get the motorcycle. I'm trying to remember what it has, but I think it has not a steer, but maybe it's a dragon. Some kind of head on the front of the steering wheel. It's pretty sweet though.
I like driving in games. Like whenever I play online with all my guys, I'm happy to be the driver in any situation, and I'm relatively good at it. Once you learn how to work a handbrake in a game, it's a game changer.
It also depends on surface too.
Yeah.
I have more fun on that game out in the Badlands because there are roads, but it's like almost desert. And that's why I'm taking a motorcycle out there and just jumping stuff. A lot of times you jump, and if you get the better bikes that you can go like over 100 miles an hour, when you hit something, you don't know where you're going to land or what you're going to crash into, which is hilarious. But it's pretty cool when you actually stick the landing. Or if you land on the bad guy, that's even better. Or what's even better than that, if you land on a bad guy that you didn't know was there. And in that game, they will say something if they see you flying through the air at them. Usually an expletive of some sort. Need to find something new. They've dropped some new games on Game Pass. I just don't have the time right now to just jump right into something, I guess. I'd rather play something I know.
Jane's physical therapy clinic is pretty stretched. He needs another PT before patients get bent out of shape.
I have to this weekend. I need to go buy another Xbox One controller. That's why I haven't brought that other Xbox in.
Yeah,
I need an extra controller. Once I get that, I'll bring that in, and then we'll work on the Switch stuff. And eventually, we'll do that podcast too. But you're leaving today, so
I am. Today's not the day. Next week might be the week, because next week I'm not going out of town again until like June. So. All right, folks, putting a nice little cap on hour number one. I found this story earlier in the week, and I just haven't gotten a chance to get to it yet, but I got 2 minutes here, so I'm going to do it. Apparently, Alonzo tells me that this story happened a while ago, but now there has been a sentencing. Christopher Erlbacher, age 29, of Woodbine, Iowa, has been sentenced to a mandatory life sentence after being convicted in December of first-degree murder in the 2020 killing of 30-year-old Caleb Solberg of Moorhead, Iowa, according to the Des Moines Register. And the reason why is bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S, or should I say the reason why I would go with bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Why did one kill the other? One killed the other because, according to investigators, back on December 17th of 2020, Erlbacher was having drinks and dinner with Solberg at a bar. And Erlbacher went and took a bite, Solberg went and took a bite of a sandwich he was eating and found out that Erlbacher had put mayonnaise on his sandwich, and he definitely did not want mayo on the sandwich. So they got into a fist fight over it. So Erlbacher put mayo on Solberg's food. Solberg then decided to fist fight the guy over it. Erlbacher got mad, left in his truck, made threats to Solberg via text message, included calls to Solberg's half-brother Craig Pryor, whom he later confronted, and rammed his vehicle with his truck. Prosecutors say later that night, Erlbacher spotted Solberg outside a cafe in Pisgah, and ran him down with his truck. He doubled back and ran over Solberg twice more to make sure Solberg was dead, according to officials, and called Pryor to brag that he had just killed his brother. You know, I went into that, Zoe, when I read that story thinking, oh man, the jokes write themselves. This is awful. This is one of those lose faith in humanity stories.
This is what happens when you take mayonnaise too seriously. You people need to think about that.
Listen, I will stand here and preach the virtue of Duke's Mayo. You have all convinced me. You have won me over to you're not a cult. But my Lord, if somebody gives you not Duke's, don't murder them, people. Come on. Let's take a break. When we come back, Doug Irwin, CBO of the Greenville Triumph, joins us. Send your text in, and we will ask them of Doug when we come back on the Rob Brown Show at ESPN Upstate. The restroom. He's going to be calling us.
Okay, that was my question. Cool.
Furman basketball, you heard right here, they pick up the win against Western Carolina yesterday, 103-85. Mike Bothwell scoring a game-high 25 points. Alex Hunter scores 23. They're back at it on Saturday when they host Wofford. Speaking of Wofford, they get a win yesterday over the Citadel, 65-58. South Carolina Upstate, they beat Presbyterian yesterday.
Rob Brown Show.
55. They were strong defensively down the stretch of the game. They will
Hey,
play
we have about a minute, and then Rob will be with you. Hang on.
Coastal Carolina will continue down the home stretch to close out the regular season. They are set to play host to South Alabama. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pauley.
Have you heard Offside with Mark Ryan?
What is on the itinerary of your ideal Super Bowl game?
I have to say, I'm a bit spoiled to say that I will be in LA with Gator and going to the game. Wake up in LA and that beautiful rooftop breakfast at the hotel in West Hollywood. I'm going to head on over to the official tailgate. I think it's a chain smoker. I'm going to get myself all cocktailed up into the game. I'm going to have a sick halftime show. And because it's LA time, to be done nice and early, and let's find out where the after parties are. It's probably a good day to meet.
So your ideal Super Bowl day is actually happening now.
I either want to be at the game or I kind of want to be alone because I like watching the commercials, I like listening to the analysts, I like really focusing. And when you're in that in between where you're like at a kind of lame party, I want to throw the dip at them.
He's talking about Offside with Mark Ryan now 3 to 7 p.m. on ESPN Upstate.
Hey, Rob, get back in the room, dude.
Message from your smart speaker.
I know you're out there, touching things again. But who was there for you when you didn't want to touch anything?
There he is.
And you got all the information you wanted
Maybe.
from a trusted source.
Still the best up-to-date sports happenings.
Go ahead, touch your nasty phone.
See if I care.
On your smart speaker or any smart device.
Doug is standing by.
Outstanding. Lovely. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello, Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. Hello, world. Great to be with you as we head towards everybody's working for the weekend. I am Rob Brown, the great one Lonzo, directly across from me. Into the phone lines we go one more time again to welcome in the Chief Branding Officer of the Greenville Triumph. He is Mr. Doug Irwin, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Dougie Fresh, welcome back. What's happening, big guy?
Thanks for having me, Rob. I'm like you, licking our wins from the curling match this morning, of which I watched all of. So,
yeah, rough one falling to Great Britain in the semifinal. Took a big risk in the ninth end, and it ultimately ended up costing us. So the Americans playing for the bronze. And yes, Doug, to answer the question of the millions and millions of Rob Brown Show listeners right now who asked it, I did wake up at 7:30 this morning to watch curling, and I will not be judged for it, Doug Irwin. I will not be.
nor will I. You're in a safe space with me, Rob.
All right, Doug. So I wanted to do this. Obviously we had you and Joe on before the first pitch was made to the county council, a little under a month ago. We had conversations with different folks throughout the community leading up to the vote on Monday. And I don't think I'm taking a guess here to say that ultimately you and the rest of the Triumph organization disappointed about the vote on Monday. I will tell you I am as well. The first thing that so for this interview, I wanted to let the audience, let the listeners ask you questions. And we got a bunch that have come in on Facebook and Twitter that I'm going to throw at you. But the first one that I wanted to ask is from me. I've heard you say, I've heard Joe say that this is not over. We're going to continue working towards a new stadium, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess the most open-ended question, Doug, is where you guys go from here, right? Where do you guys go from here? I'm sure it's back to the drawing board, but if I may ask you to get candid as you possibly can here, what's on the drawing board?
Well, as candid as I can, Rob, I'm not really sure what the next direction is. I will say this is coming out of the vote on Monday night, Tuesday morning, we got right back to work and we're trying to figure out the next step. And I think it's looking at all options and it's looking at trying to engage some options that maybe we were talking about more passively or down the road for, maybe phase 2 on the stadium. And that's going the route of some state money potentially, if there's an ability there, and private money, but private money coming in or being borrowed. Really everything's on the table. And, I would tell you this is if we could afford to build a stadium ourselves, we would do it. And, we are cognizant of the taxpayers' role in this, and hopefully not having to involve them. Certainly with our original proposal, that one of the big points that we were adamant about is this doesn't create any new taxes on Greenville County residents, and we want to maintain that stand. We already had one committed partner and still have a committed partner in Malden who voted and approved to bring money to the table for the project. We're bringing money to the table for the project as well. And now we just have to close the gap to get to the $38 million number that we spec'd it out at to get the stadium built. And we'll get creative with how we search for the rest of that money.
So, Doug, one of the first questions we got when we talked about this earlier in the show from our Preferred Home Services text line is, why not make a push towards getting this privately funded and finding $38 million in investment? So I guess the better way to phrase that question is, and you mentioned it briefly just a second ago, is there an interest in, are there already, and will there be a push more towards getting private benefactors, local businesses, business owners, community philanthropists, etc. Is that going to be a point of emphasis for you guys moving forward?
I think it will be, and I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I don't know if that's something that can, close all that gap. It's something we looked at before, and it's not like we went to the county just begging for money. We believe in the notion of a public-private partnership and realizing that this stadium is about much more than just 14 Greenville Triumph home games a year and another, 7 or 8 women's team home games. We wanted the county to be involved because we thought it was a winning proposition for them. And we still feel that way. And I don't know that the door is completely closed with the county. Certainly we've got to look at how we can, how we can potentially get back in front of them or get back in front of the council as a whole, which I know we would really like to do, is to be able to pitch this to the entire council. So, I think the private route, if there's interest, look, our phone lines are open. So, we know a lot of people are passionate about this project, and we know that there are some financial concerns and institutions that have had interest in the project, and now we're going to go back to some of those people and institutions and have some more serious conversation.
Doug, one thing, and I've gotten this in about 3 different versions, is the question about location. Obviously, Malden had already voted, their city council already voted to sit at the negotiating table with you guys, and you were waiting on county approval to do that, which they denied on Monday. If this plan doesn't work and if we go private route, I guess first and foremost, the best way to ask this is, how much of a role does in wood location have to do with this stadium? B, are there any other options on the table that may clear the path up? Maybe a place like Greer, or Josh asked in the Facebook chat, maybe looking over towards West Greenville. How much of an impact does the potential location for this stadium have, if any at all? And are the Triumph open to potential other locations if someone was to step up and say, hey, I'll pitch in 10 mil, but I need this stadium over here closer to X?
Yeah, Rob, great question. For us, location was a huge factor in this for a variety of reasons. One, because it's where the majority of our ticket buyers come from, is the Malden-Simpsonville area. 2, if you look at economic heat maps of where income and business are trending in Greenville County, they're all headed to the Malden-Simpsonville area. And 3, and maybe most importantly, was committed partners in the city of Malden and Phil Hughes and the Bridgeway Station development. So, I would say this: we remain committed to the project. We think we've got the right location. But kind of behind closed doors have been entertaining a number of sites about for the stadium across the last couple of years, and some we were pretty serious with and talked to some developers, and some that felt like the right thing at the time, and they didn't work out, or we refocused for one reason or another. So we really do think that this is the spot to be. This is the development to be. But we're gonna listen to anybody. I think the thing I would say is a lot of people are suggesting locations to us, and I appreciate the suggestions. But also I would say that we've looked at a lot of them, and some of them very seriously. I'll always listen to someone talk about 7 acres or more of land that they've got that's close to major roads and is has a lot of body heat to it. But some of the things like Serene Stadium and West Greenville, we've looked at a lot of those plots of land, or in the case of Serene, we've looked at the stadium itself, but there were logistical challenges, and at many of those, a number of reasons why they didn't get the final play for the stadium, at least in this iteration. So we believe in Bridgeway Station, we believe in Malden in this project, and we think that if we can make it work here, it's about best outcome for everyone.
Yeah, Doug, I've seen a number of people, and we've had 2 text in so far on the text line and ask, why not retrofit another stadium that's already in the area, right? If there was money that the Triumph to the tune of $8 million that you guys were already willing to put into the kitty for a new stadium, why not take that money and retrofit another stadium elsewhere? And I again, relatively new here, don't know how many and what options are on the table. I've heard Serene Stadium a number of times, but if the new stadium doesn't come through, is Legacy Early College a long-term home for the Triumph? And if not, what other options are on the table, if any?
Sure, Rob. The first part of that is there's an end date coming at Legacy. We don't know exactly when that is. This might be the last season at Legacy, but we're not for sure on that yet. But Legacy's been a great spot for us and a great relationship. But Legacy on their end, that they need their field back. They want to program it, which is their right. We're having more programming challenges now, bringing on the women's team and needing more dates and more flexibility in the venue. And Legacy's also limited in its capacity. The way it sits in with the road right there, and we're limited in what we can do from concessions and parking and all that. So as we continue to grow, we do think we'll outgrow Legacy at some point. In terms of another stadium, and again, Serene's the one that people tell us a lot. Why don't you play in Serene? In 2018, before we picked Legacy as our home field, Serene was one of the ones that we strongly considered, and we actually had a consultant for the U.S. Soccer Federation come out and survey Serene extensively to look at the feasibility, playability of the field, and what we found was that it's way too narrow. And we're not talking a couple yards; we're talking double-digit yards too narrow, and it was the consultants and the federation's belief that the cost of playing at Serene would be much more than the cost of creating a new stadium. Just when you look at all the demo and retrofitting we'd have to do, and there are also some challenges at Serene with the neighborhood nearby and not wanting to have too many things programmed because it literally does sit in a neighborhood. Parking challenges with the ability to sell alcohol, given the school board and their ownership and involvement in the stadium. So, we love Serene. It's got a lot of great history, but it's not really a feasible solution for us, and certainly not the best and most frugal way to spend money for a stadium solution. So, I think there are other sites worth looking at, but especially around Greenville County, where most things are built for football, width is a concern. And in cases like Serene, where you have concrete and earth, boxing that width in, that makes it a little challenging to evaluate some sites like that.
Doug Irwin, CBO of the Greenville Triumph, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show at ESPN Upstate. Obviously, Doug, the biggest questions that we've gotten, the most frequently asked questions, are about funding. We have heard both you and Joe and others say that the goal is to ensure that there are no new taxes created to come out of hospitality taxes. But somebody presented something interesting earlier, which is, are there any grants available? Is there any funds available from the USSF, from USL League One, from any other larger soccer organizations that are efforting to grow the sport? Are there any grants? Are there any other funds available that may kind of bring that total number down that the county would need to come up with in order to build the stadium?
The short answer, Rob, is I don't know yet, but I would tell you we're looking at that. One of the things that's been just a massive help in this entire stadium push is the USL, the United Soccer League, that we're a member of. They don't have money to hand out left and right to people looking to build stadiums, but what they do have are resources. And we've been working with a number of consultants that work with the USL, both on the financial side, on the project planning side, the stadium architecture side, you name it. And they're bringing in just some of the top sports stadium consultants in the country and probably the world. So it's been great for us to be able to work with local companies like McMillan Townsend Smith architecture firm to design the stadium, but then also to bring in the help of some experts who have done this in stadiums all throughout the country and have built buildings like this. So they're helping us. One of the guys on the financial side that was our first call Tuesday morning after the vote was, Mike, we gotta get creative. What are some other avenues we could look at? So we're certainly going to go that route. The sport of soccer has been blowing up, and I think there's a reason you're seeing buildings like the one we're trying to build get built or in the process of being built in many other cities about Greenville size throughout the country, is because everybody knows that soccer is growing, and the need for stadiums like this is huge. So it's a good time to be wanting to build a stadium. We just got to figure out how we can make the project work.
There you go. Doug Irwin is the Chief Branding Officer for the Greenville Triumph here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Doug, I am relatively sure this is not going to be the last time we have a conversation similar to this one, but I do appreciate the time, man. In the meantime, for those that are on board, are supporting this idea, want it to happen, what can they do? What would the Triumph like them to do to be able to help with this?
Yeah, great question, Rob. The fan support and the community support has been huge for this project, and that's part of the reason we were so disappointed Monday night, is because we know so many people that want this to come to fruition. It's not just us. So, I think the thing I would say is, hey, the fight's not over yet. We're still in it. We're still working towards it. We're not giving up. Please don't give up on us either. And the best way to support this project is, come April 2nd when the men kick off at Legacy, and May 7th when the women kick off. Come and support us. We're fun, affordable, great game day experience at Legacy, even as we work towards a permanent stadium. So, as we go out and look for funding, if we can, turn around and point to full stadiums every weekend that we're home, that's the best thing for showing why we need a new stadium. So please come out and support us. Team's going to be great, and we're going to get this thing done one way or another.
There you go. That is Doug Irwin, CBO, the Triumph. Doug, my man, appreciate the time, big fella. We'll get you back on soon when we get a little more information, my guy.
Thanks, Rob. Be well.
Always. Will do. That is Doug Irwin, curling fan and soccer CBO. How about it? Appreciate it, Doug. Back after this, Fight Club up next on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
To be continued. Welcome into the Fight Club, where we know if you tune in and ask you why you tuned out, because wrestling's cool and MMA is cool and boxing's cool. Fighting in Walmart parking lot, not cool, but we'll still talk about it if we see it, or if you send us a video of it, we'll definitely break it down.
We have done full play-by-play and analysis of shopping mart bare knuckle brawls before.
Well, and there's proof that wrestling is definitely a part of the lexicon, part of life anymore, because most of those parking lot brawls involve some sort of wrestling move.
We called one where dude dropped a genuinely good angle slam, Olympic slam on a dude. It was fantastic.
Yeah, we've seen clotheslines.
Not if you were the dude that took it.
No, and it looked painful. It really did. So, yeah,
that fight was over.
Yeah.
Oh boy, got up and was like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm
good.
Out of here. All right, so we got a big time pay-per-view coming up this Saturday on the road to WrestleMania, and I don't hate the fact that it's on at noon on Saturday. I kind of like that, because I can get up on it. It's just like watching a college football game and get up at noon, watch the pay-per-view, and then have the rest of the day afterwards. Even if it were to go 4 hours, I'm okay with that. It's not going to, but it could. The fact that it's in Saudi Arabia is also kind of, I guess it could be kind of a bad sign, Rob, because now Saudi Arabia is paying for pay-per-views with major implications to come to their soil, which this one has major implications.
Yeah, it's interesting because the last couple, you did the greatest Royal Rumble, and those were always kind of fun because they're kind of like spin-off episodes, right? Like the main characters are there and they have some interactions, but for the most part, they're largely spin-off episodes. They even made up the trophy or the belt for the greatest Royal Rumble so that the folks in Saudi dumping oil money into VKM's account can like call the shots for a day. But then when they get back next Monday, it's like, okay, cool. That was a fight. It's like a side mission, in a video game.
Yeah.
You can go do it. It doesn't really impact the main version. This time it does, right? And I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see how much they're going to relinquish effectively creative control of their main storylines so these Saudi princes can have their fun in the sun. If it's a lot, Goldberg's going to be the guy that beats Roman Reigns. And I will tell you straight up, if he does, you will get the most long, exaggerative, sarcastic sigh out of me that you've ever heard in out of any human being ever.
The princes seem to love the Goldberg quite a bit, because he is. I think they really have a lot to do with him still being around in WWE, because every time they go over there, he gets a match, even if he hasn't been around for a while. And he hasn't been around for a while. And look, they're over there, and so is he. All right, let's go through some of these matches, or all these matches, really quick. Let's start with the Elimination Chamber matches themselves, starting with the men. Bobby Lashley, who's currently the champ on Raw, he will be in the Elimination Chamber match with Brock Lesnar, with Seth Rollins, with Austin Theory, Riddle, and AJ Styles.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. Can you tell me which thing is not like the others by the time I finish this song?
Austin Theory.
Hey, thank you. You got it right.
You're welcome. So if Rob's theory of his feelings for Vincent Kennedy McMahon hold true, then Rob probably believes Austin Theory is going to win this match.
No, he does not.
Okay. All right.
I think Brock's going to win this match.
Yeah, I think Brock's going to win this match too, because they still want Brock versus Roman at
and what makes it
WrestleMania.
more interesting than champion versus champion. Sorry, Bobby Lashley. You had a great build. You had your time in the sun. But at the end of the day, VKM wants his toys back.
Well, good. Go by the wayside like what they did to my guy, Big E. I don't care if you lose your championship. And I'm okay with Brock. Watched an interview with him on McAfee the other
Really
day.
entertaining, by the way.
It was so good. And as we're sitting there watching, my wife's like, he's like a member of your family because it's how my family acts. And he also has a bit of an anxiety problem like I do. And maybe you wouldn't think that. Maybe you thought, he had to be paired with Paul Heyman because he couldn't talk. But really, it's about nerves.
Dude, he's been better in this I'm just Brock Lesnar guy since he got back.
He said himself that after he does a big event like this, he has to go off by himself for a couple of days because he's a nervous wreck.
Yeah, he said standing in front of that many people and having to put on a show is exhausting mentally because Brock Lesnar doesn't get exhausted physically. Look at that guy.
Yeah.
But he says it's and I understand. I mean, I completely understand that. Like, I don't suffer from social anxiety, fortunately, but I personally know people who do.
Yeah, be glad you don't.
Yeah. Having a conversation with a person they don't know will physically and emotionally and mentally drain them. And a lot of people look at a guy like Brock and go, oh, that guy, dude, it can be anybody. I know people in this business, like in my role, that are hosts on TV that have social anxiety, and you can't talk to them after shows because they got to put their whole life back together after going through that. So it was a really entertaining interview, both because it turns out Brock Lesnar is kind of entertaining as a person.
Dude built his own butcher shop because he was interested in slaughtering his own beef.
Yeah. Talking about hunting, asked him why he wears a ponytail. He's like, because my kids dared me to and said I wouldn't do it. And he's like, I'm not losing a bet to them. So I did it. It's really engaging and entertaining because Brock's always been interesting to me, not because of the character, although the character is, but entertaining to me because we've never really gotten a chance to like know Brock Lesnar away from wrestling. And he's always been one of those guys that I don't know where the line between character and dude lies. Like, if I ever met him in a supermarket, should I be afraid of him genuinely?
But see, that's the thing. And I completely get it. You try to look as intimidating and be as intimidating as you can be, so you don't have to have those conversations that make you really nervous.
Yeah.
Because if people are scared of you, they're not going to talk to you. And so I completely get that. And I agree. Brock Lesnar is going to win this match. All right. The women's Elimination Chamber match, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Doudrop, Nikki ASH, and Alexa Bliss in the Elimination Chamber. I'll go first on this. I am going to say that Bianca should win it, but Alexa Bliss is going to win this.
Yeah. You don't get a ton of vignettes about a female superstar unless they're genuinely going to be.
And the ending of it was stupid. It made no sense.
The start, middle, and ending.
No, he handed the doll back to her and basically told her to go and do what she was already doing. Yeah. I didn't get that. At least with Kane and Daniel Bryan at the time, at least we got some. It made sense. They made progress. With her, it was so lame. It was very lame. So we both agree on that. All right, Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. You've already talking about your biggest fear or how much you will hate the fact if Goldberg wins. Goldberg does not win this. Roman Reigns wins.
I mean, I very sincerely hope that you are correct. I really do. But again,
if Goldberg were to win, Roman Reigns would win the following SmackDown, win the title back.
Oh, I'm sure he would. But like, you know what we call that? Really dumb. Like it's just dumb. It's just dumb. That man's 57 years old. Go home, Bill. You were a legend back in my heyday. Just stay there.
All right. Speaking of dumb, let me do this next match like this. Becky, that's her thing. That's what she does now. She stutters, and that's supposed to make her look crazy and indecisive, and it makes her look dumb. Becky Lynch versus Lita. It's pretty cool that this match is happening. And I don't believe Lita's going to win this, although I wish she would. So is this going to be what we're going to see? That they're going to bring in legends just so Becky can beat them to prove that she's the best of all time, which she's not, but that's what they're going to do?
No. They bring in legends because VKM goes, oh, you liked Lita 20 years ago, so she'll put us over now, right? And it's like, I will acknowledge that listen, I had a huge crush on Lita back.
She is working on a long run from what I've read. So we'll see.
Why? You have a roster full of young women that you should be making into stars, and instead you break. And don't get me wrong, again, huge crush on Lita back in the day. I've always been into crazy women. I can't help it. I had a huge crush on Lita back in the day. I thought she was incredible, but
she's
why?
had work done, and they did a really good job. Just around the edges, you can see where. Yeah.
Look,
anyway,
I don't understand this obsession with, well, instead of taking new young good wrestlers and making entertaining new good young wrestlers, let's just keep trotting out the same early 2000s stars, because that, I got to tell you, like, there's a part of me that's like, all right, cool, I guess we get to see Lita again. But the reaction is not, yes, Lita's back. It's, all right, I guess we're doing this again. Like, I'll watch because it's Lita, but.
So I guess the Saudi princes like Lita and wanted to see her wrestle.
We all like Lita. It was the GOAT.
Yeah, I disagree. What she did to Matt Hardy, he's never been the same. Let us go with the next match. The rest of the matches don't care that much about, but we should pick winners anyway. The Usos versus the Viking Raiders. Usos are not going to lose.
Nope.
Viking Raiders were awesome when they first started, but they've watered them down to the point where their helmets are sweet though. But although the Usos stole their helmets, but still, yeah, the Usos win this match.
I was so excited about them when they showed up. I'm like, this is going to be great.
And they changed their name like 5 times.
Yeah.
And,
The Viking experience. Get out of here with that crap, man. Just.
All right, Ronda Rousey and Naomi versus Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. This could be entertaining. It could. The other three are going to have to cover for Ronda because she got better when she was on her initial run. As she went each week, I thought she improved as a wrestler, but obviously she's rusty and they need to keep the mic away from her, but they should have always done that. I want to see what happens when Naomi really gets her hands on Sonya Deville, because this has been a pretty good storyline. We still don't know why that Sonya Deville doesn't like Naomi, but I can't wait to find out why, and I hope it's not something stupid.
I mean, if we find out.
Yeah, true. So Rousey and Naomi win this.
Yeah, I agree. Which is interesting. I mean, 99% of the time, I'm going to tell you, Charlotte Flair doesn't lose. She's their baby. She's VKM's golden child. But you don't pay Ronda Rousey and bring Ronda Rousey back to have Ronda Rousey lose unless you're setting up a Rousey chases down Charlotte angle. But again, do we like, is that the match we wanted to see Ronda Rousey come back for?
No. Friend of the show, Charlotte Flair, by the way, or a friend of the station, rather.
Yeah.
She'll be a friend of the show eventually. All right. One more match, which we definitely don't care about, but it's the last one. Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss in a Falls Count Anywhere.
Let me tell you,
that's gonna
saw this on the market.
Yeah,
thought, there's a headliner.
But can you do this out in the? This is going to be. I don't know.
Boring.
Well, no,
pointless.
It's
unnecessary.
It hasn't really been
irrelevant.
done in the atmosphere it's going to be in. I want to be. I don't want to go too far with this, but in the atmosphere it's in, what can they actually do?
Whatever they want. They're not women. They're allowed to do whatever they want.
Okay.
The women, on the other hand, must wear pants. So,
well, there's that.
That's cool.
All right.
That's cool.
Let's jump into some other stuff really quick. NXT, the Dusty Cup, a winner was crowned, and it was the Creed brothers. And the Creed brothers, I'm mentioning them because they're from Ohio. And also, one of them went to my alma mater of Otterbein. The other one actually went to Duke and wrestled for Duke. I think that's kind of cool. They beat MSK. MSK, the big lead up. They found their shaman and everything. It was a really good match, though.
Their shaman.
Yes. The Creed. Leading into the COVID year before it got canceled and he didn't get to wrestle in nationals or anything.
Are you genuine question? Like, what's your level of what's the word? Commitment towards NXT right now? Like, are you still like, it's an every week must? Is it let me watch everything else first?
They have improved over the last month.
Okay.
There was a time I was really concerned. There are some things there that I see a lot of promise in. And so they at least have a couple guys that bring me back every week to see what they're going to do. Okay, including Dolph versus Ciampa. And this is heating up. Ciampa actually showed up on the big show and interrupted, and Dolph was back. Does this mean that Ciampa's moving up, and should he?
No, he's already said multiple times he has no interest in going to the main roster. He doesn't want to go to the main roster.
Doesn't matter if he's
You know what Ciampa
written
is?
into going up into the main roster.
He's not. Like he said, I'm not going up. I'm home is NXT. This is where I'm going to start. This is where I'm going to end. Which is why it's interesting. He's the choice for Dolph. So it's one of two things. Either it is a way for Dolph to bring main roster shine down to Ciampa and create the NXT guys are absolutely capable of beating main roster guys. You should watch this show. Or they're setting up Dolph to replace Ciampa as what Ciampa is, which is basically the big bad of NXT. You don't go to the main roster until you can defeat Tommaso Ciampa. So either Dolph's coming down to prove that Ciampa is as good as the main roster guys, and that's why he's the big bad, or they're bringing Dolph down to replace Ciampa as the final gatekeeper before guys to move up.
All right, quick hits before we go to break. AEW, Jon Moxley basically says to Danielson, we need to face each other in the ring, and then I'll give you my answer.
Yeah.
Which means there's promise that they might actually put this faction together, and man, I hope they do.
Be intrigued, I'd be intrigued.
I hope. I'm just going to say I want to see it happen. There'll be betrayal and all that kind of stuff, but still, at first, I think they'd be pretty strong depending on who they bring in there. I don't know about Wheeler Yuta has actually shown some promise and improvement over the weeks, and Lee Moriarty, even though he got his butt whipped last night, it's pretty good. Not that they will bring those in, but you never know. All right, CM Punk versus MJF and a dog collar match is teased. Interested? Not interested?
I don't think these two need a gimmick. Right. I don't think we need a gimmick match. I get it because MJF's all about the I'm not going to beat you. I'm going to humiliate you angle. And I respect that. But I don't think these two need a gimmick. I think the matches they fought have been really, really good. I have loved the back and forth whenever they're out there together, not fighting. I don't think they need a gimmick match. That being said, I've enjoyed it enough that I'll watch it, even though it is a dumb
Would
match.
AEW bring this up just so they can mention Cody Rhodes' name like 10 times? The last match this happened was Cody Rhodes. The last match, they said it a ton of times, and that's all they talked about. That's all they said about Cody. That was it.
The more that I read, the more that I see, I'm backing myself into the corner of this whole thing with Cody's at work, right? Because if you go and you read through, there were 3 messages put out. Cody put out one out, Brandy put one out, and AEW themselves put it one out. In none of them did they say Cody's leaving. All 3 of them said, thank you to the fans and thanks, and it's been a good ride. And AEW said Cody's been so influential, Brandy's been so influential. We want to thank them for everything they've done. Nowhere in any of those 3 messages does it say he's walking away. I'm getting to the point where I'm all but convinced it's a work at this point. Probability that I'm right.
I mean, you could be right. The last thing I want to say is finish him. Cobra Kai with Britt Baker was awesome.
Back after this, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate.
If it is a work, it's a perfect work, and they're utilizing something that hasn't been done really as far as social media and stuff.
I like it if it is. If it's not, it is what it is.
If it's not, we see Cody Saturday.
The theory, there's 2 theories. One, it's a work. All right. Sorry to interrupt, but I am relatively sure when they show the American team that one of the American team guys is wearing SpongeBob themed Nikes with plankton socks.
I hope so.
I'll tell you if I see him again. The theory I've heard regarding Cody is twofold. Either A, it's a work, or B, that one was not. Or B, that he does want to go back and he's going to basically, because the whole thing when he left was the smack talk between him and Triple H. But H called him when his kid was born to congratulate him and all that. So the thought is they bring him back to let him become an NXT guy and work the angle of I'm going to make this better than Triple H ever did. You're getting close. You just need one to not. If you,
I tipped it off a couple of times when you were looking. When you look at. All right, I'm about to quit because
because it's very loud.
Oh, I don't care if it's loud. It probably bothers you. You know what's catching me is that knob.
I think you got to spin it. That's why the
Yeah.
bowling angle was to get it like a spiral. You got to spiral it in there. You don't have enough.
Yeah,
you don't have enough room to.
With a ball, with something like that, it doesn't work. I need to pretend like I'm playing horseshoe. All right, go ahead.
You're taking on the run, baby.
No!
If that's the way you want it, baby, then I don't want you around. Yeah, we heard about next week forecast, eh? It's going to snow, eh?
Apparently it was disturbing Diesel because he tweeted about it. The sound. QC Kinetics in the final break. Man, I wish I would have saw that before I stopped. I'd still be over there throwing it. Really? He's going to go recycling bin on me.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Heading towards the end of the show. Tomorrow, I'm actually leaving tonight. I'm driving back down to Florida. I will be with you tomorrow, but I will be down in the Sunshine State. Do not know if we will have the stream up yet or not. You'll know tomorrow at noon when the stream comes up or not, just as an FYI. And want to let you know that we are off on Monday. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be off on Monday for President's Day. We will make our triumphant return, and I will be back in studio on Tuesday. So a little programming note for you there between now and then. Real quick, before we get out of here and hit 200 trending topics on the way out the door, the U.S. women's national team is back on the pitch this evening for game number 1 of the She Believes Cup. Now, that game is not kicking off until 11 p.m. this evening. They are out on the West Coast taking on the Czech Republic. That'll be 8 o'clock on the West Coast. So we get the very late kick this evening on the East Coast. 11 p.m. kick, U.S. versus Czech Republic. And if you are at all a U.S. soccer fan, this will be an interesting one that I think you'll want to watch, ladies and gentlemen, because it is going to be a very, very young roster. No Megan Rapinoe, no Kristen Press, no Tobin Heath, no Alex Morgan. All of the long-term vets of this club are not on the roster because U.S. women's soccer wanted to make a run at the Revolution, right? You had last year's Olympics delayed by a year, cut your cycle down. Ordinarily, you get 3 years, obviously. You have the Olympics, then you got 3 years to the Women's World Cup and the next Olympics coming up. And so usually the year after the Olympics is a veteran run, right? It's a farewell to thee. Thanks for being a part of this team. Send off to everybody that is leaving on the victory tour. But they can't do that with this She Believes Cup. They are going young roster because it is time for turnover. A lot of those players are getting older, athletically speaking. And the U.S., after losing to Canada in the semifinals of the last Olympics, have recognized they cannot rely on Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe and all of these greats. Can't rely on them to carry them through to the next cycle. So instead of wasting a year by having the vets come out there and do it again, they have decided instead to try out the younger roster here. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good idea. The Revolution will be televised this evening at 11 p.m. when U.S. Soccer takes on the Czech Republic from out in California. Again, if you are a follower and looking forward to the future of U.S. women's soccer, this is the beginning of a new era, ladies and gentlemen. This is a beginning of a new era. This is the beginning of a new group of young ladies carrying the red, white, and blue into Competition Day International now. So make sure you're tuned in. I'll give you the results of that game because your boy's nocturnal and we'll be staying up late to watch it. We'll give you the full rundown tomorrow. The NASCAR dual qualifiers are tonight down in Daytona as well. If you are at all interested in NASCAR, this is going to be a must-watch for you as well, ladies and gentlemen, because you're getting the debut of the next-gen cars on a big competitive search. This is going to be a big one. These cars have been described as marbles because they are almost to some degree designed to bang against each other, to brush up against each other, and to be able to survive contact. We will see. Tonight is going to have a big influence on what the 500 looks like. If these guys are smashing into each other this evening and are putting cars into walls and whatnot, then it means the Daytona 500 might look that much more entertaining. We'll have a breakdown of that for you tomorrow as well. Let's take our final break. When we come back, Twitter Trending Topics wraps up our Thursday on the Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate.
QC.
Tell you about my friends at QC Kinetics. Ladies and gentlemen, joint pain is real. And if you're a seasoned citizen like myself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You played baseball for all those years, ladies and gentlemen. You played baseball for all those years. And now as you get a little bit older and you go to make that omelet and you pick up the frying pan, right? Because you're going to be the cool guy that flips the omelet. Oh, just me? That's okay. You got to flip the omelet and then you go, dude, my shoulder, man. My shoulder hurts. Why? It's because all those years of tossing the rock wore down the connective tissue that is inside of your shoulder. It's inside of all of your joints. And when that happens to you, the unfortunate reality is that joint tissue, it doesn't heal itself. It doesn't regenerate like it used to back in your youth when you were playing that baseball. Well, QC Kinetics can help out with that. Their non-surgical regenerative therapy will help to heal that connective tissue, restore that connective tissue, and speed up your body's ability to heal that connective tissue. And when it does, you're going to be able to go back to living your life pain-free without the fear of pain. It's just that simple, ladies and gentlemen. Check them out and find out exactly what I'm talking about by hearing the testimonial of dozens and dozens and dozens of real-life satisfied patients of QC Kinetics by going to qckinetics.com, QCKANETIX.com, or giving them a buzz at 864-448-3772. Mention the Rob Brown Show and get that first consultation for free with our friends at QC Kinetics.
You'll appreciate my reply to him. You have music on too, so it's really loud. Don't leave this alone.
All right, so I got to record my lives, record my daily for tonight and tomorrow. What else do I have to do? I think that's all I got to do, and get these clips from Joe and Doug up. John and Doug.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then I'm done. Then I got a 7.5-hour drive.
How much would it take a normal person to get there?
7.5 is the normal drive time.
Is it? Okay.
I make it in 7. Problem is, and I may be leaving tomorrow. You may see me tomorrow because there's a huge rainstorm that if it moves quickly enough, it will stretch from Pensacola all the way here. So it would be a full ride in the rain. And while I don't mind driving in the rain,
other people are not so good at it either. Yeah.
And it would turn 7 hours into 9 or 10. And as much as I would rather be home tomorrow so I can have a day with my family before what I got to do on Saturday and Sunday, 7 hours in a car I can live with, I can deal with it. 10 hours in a car will drive me out of my skull. I don't have enough podcast.
Yeah, 10 hours is not fun, which is about how long it takes me to get home.
No.
That's with a few stops and because there are a lot of mountains involved. Although I've always wondered if I could drive to the coast, drive up past the Appalachian Mountains, and then drive over, and how much further away. Because then I wouldn't have to go through the mountains. But I guess you probably still would, because it has to go off into the beach somewhere. I wonder if I could handle mountains in a train. But it's more about the pressure on my ears than it is anything. Tango Day. Have you reached the height of selling out when you're doing Honey Nut Cheerios commercials? Just curious. He doesn't have to drive through any hollers. Oh, you're talking about me? Yeah, I'd have to drive through hollers for sure. Can't drive through KY and not visit the family. It's time for Twitter Trending Topics, where I tell Rob what's trending on the internet, and then he would tell everybody what world why it's trending. Stranger Things is trending.
I got to tell you, I watched the first season of Stranger Things. The first 7 episodes were really good. It got a little off. It wasn't bad. It just kind of lost me a little bit. And then I watched 2 episodes of season 2, and it just kind of fell out for me. But I think that was because I expected sci-fi, and it went full.
It changes season to season.
Yeah, it just
does.
I expected a cool sci-fi. One character has weird powers, and the rest are trying to live in that world. And when they started introducing the Gorgon and all that, I'm like, it's just.
Season 3 was better than season 2, by the way.
I may have to jump back into it, but as we had the conversation yesterday, Lonzo, I kind of got to the point where if you lose my attention for more than there's so much other stuff that I'm trying to watch that you just go to the back seat.
Well, it's trending because the upcoming season is the final season.
Okay.
So there's that. One other thing, Henry Cavill is trending.
Henry Cavill's he's a dude.
Oh, you're going to love this.
Try me.
He is going to be Connor McLeod in the new Highlander, directed by the John Wick director.
Really?
Yes. He is trying to play every cool part ever created by man.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All we got left is stick him in a Lord of the Rings movie, and we're done, right?
No, James Bond still looms on the horizon.
He would make a good James Bond.
I think so too.
I still want Idris Elba to be James Bond. But
either way, I'm good.
Yeah. That's it for us. Diesel and Mark Ryan are off next with Offsides. We'll be back tomorrow to try harder and do it all over again. For Lonzo, I'm Rob. Thanks for listening to The Rob Brown Show right here on ESPN Upstate. Later, brother.
ESPN
Thanks for watching Stream. See